annoyance. Will scare off the brainless junkies. Visible cameras can be fake, though they're so cheap. Just get real ones. Don't leave your garage door open. Thieves like to drive around nice neighborhoods, looking for people who left their garage open. They love a situation where someone might be mowing their backyard. Quickly hop out of the car, run into the garage, grab as many tools as they can, and run. If they brought a truck, they'll be grabbing bigger stuff. You probably won't even notice or know what happened. Make it a royal pain in the ass to get into your backyard. 10 feet.
I have been noticed.
No one likes breaking in through the front door or front windows. No one likes scaling 10 feet fences either. This complements the get a big dog concept. Don't keep your car keys on a hook next to the front door. Newer cars are impossible for an average thief to hotwire. Easy as hell to kick in your front door and snatch the keys straight off the hook, though. Related to the above, don't answer the door for strangers. If thieves are casing out the neighborhood, they will pretend to be magazine salesmen, Jehovah's Witnesses, etc., just to take a peek of what's inside. Especially that hook for car keys. Once again, a big dog can help here. Get an alarm system. If you can't pony up for that, get the stickers and signage of eBay. Don't keep anything in your car, especially work trucks and vans. Hell, I even know of someone who robbed a cop car. Keep your vehicles empty. Locks don't fucking matter. The lock on the back door of a work van can be popped out in under 5 seconds with a slide puller and a screw. The locks on your house are useless too. If you're really paranoid and have a good budget, steel door frame plus solid steel door. I don't have much of any other advice on that. Don't trust locks. Lock your doors. Even though I don't think much of locks, don't leave your house unlocked either. Deadbolts on every exterior door. Keep expensive stuff out of sight. Your 70-inch flat screen TV should not be visible from the street. Your MacBook Pro shouldn't be kept right in front of your first floor office window. Don't invite strangers over. Hosting an open invitation kegger is a terrible idea. If a thief shows up, they are either stealing something right then and there, or they are casing the place to come back later. If you have a safe, use it. It's utterly stupid how many people who have them just leave them open all the time because it's annoying. If you have guns, try to keep that information to yourself. There are whole subsets of thieves dedicated to scouting out gun owners and robbing them when they're not home. Don't post your entire social life publicly on social media. The people scouting out robberies aren't always across the street in a sketchy van. They're just following you on Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare and Instagram. Keep anything that is really expensive in a bank security box. If your grandmother passed on a $50,000 diamond ring to you, don't keep it in your jewelry box. Don't do illegal stuff. The houses of drug dealers are robbed on a consistent basis, because the thieves know the cops won't get called. And the propensity for those victims to have expensive jewelry and electronics, stay on the up and up, and a lot of trouble will avoid you. Leave the TV and lights on when you're not home. Not only does it give the impression someone is home, it also will entertain and comfort your big dog. If you're in an apartment, do whatever you can to add more locks, if possible according to your lease, alarm system, cameras, etc. Lots of shady maintenance men and landlords out there. Lock your patio door, even if you live on the 10th floor. Scaling the sides of most buildings is actually pretty easy. If you are prohibited from owning a big dog, a little annoying yip-yapping albino dog can work. Cats are useless. Keep the flaunting to a minimum. If you have an expensive vehicle, at least try to keep it in a garage. If you have lots of expensive tools, don't fly a snap-on banner outside your garage. Don't put up "Hey, this house is protected by Smith & Wesson" sign. Read up and be aware of how most popular scams work. Water meter scams, fence salesman scams, etc. Most of the time, someone will be distracting you somehow, while their accomplice sneaks into your house. Just don't talk to strangers and you will avoid all of them. Junkies love to rob the elderly. Medications and jewelry. Your broke college bud is probably safe, but please make sure your grandmother is all set. Don't leave an extra key under your doormat, under a rock, in your mailbox or on top of the door frame. Also worth discussing are what to do when a burglar is in your house.
Any color that you don't like?
Your PlayStation is not worth getting stabbed over. You will most likely lose any fights you start. Don't do that.
What's your favorite color?
Don't count on them to save you, but do it anyways. At the very least, you will most likely have to file a police report anyways for an insurance claim. The timbering of a shotgun generally scares the hell out of thieves. Real thieves will get the out of there if they think someone has a gun. Junkies, though, might be too messed up to notice. Or they might have their own and not care. Still best to get the hell out. If there is no way to avoid an encounter with the robber, get naked. Not down to your underwear, I mean 100% naked. Get crazy, yell things. This is not advised for attractive females, but for the average guy, it's a viable deterrent. The thief has a specific game plan in mind. They know how they're going to get in, where they plan to go, what they plan to take, where they plan to exit, and how they plan to leave. Anything that can be done that will majorly disrupt their plan will generally make them leave ASAP. Mace. If you can't legally procure mace, sporting goods stores should carry bear spray. If you can't get that either for some reason, wasp or hornet spray. Again, I really can't stress this enough, goal number 1 is to get the hell out. Don't bring wasp spray to a gunfight. If you have your keys on you, set off your car alarm. And, lastly, just some general advice. Follow your local news and police reports vigorously. You should be able to get a feel for the types of crime happening in your area, and can figure out a game plan based on that. Personally, my area is high crime, but it's all smash and grab type thefts. While my vehicle has been robbed 3 times in the past year, I have zero concern whatsoever that I will be the victim of an armed home invasion. It's just not the style for the area.
I got
if you have a choice, try to live in a moderately populated area, near a police station.
Good job, Dad.
Living at the end of an isolated cul-de-sac is going to be a lot easier for a thief to get into without being noticed, than a townhome in a 100-unit property. Be friendly with your neighbors, to the point where they will recognize any sketchy activity. Keep your nose clean, and don't associate yourself with sketchy characters. Crime begets crime. It's callous for me to say, but really, 90% of the victims of crime that I know, had it coming. Keep receipts for anything you paid more than $250 for, and keep them in a fireproof safe. If you do end up having to file an insurance claim, they are going to pay you without documentation. Be aware that for high-ticket items, they are required to be scheduled on your policy ahead of time. If you have a $15,000 home theater system, or $20,000 in collectible Magic TG cards, your insurance company needs to know about that ahead of time. Keep serial numbers, and photos, if possible, of anything you care about. If your laptop gets stolen, and you see it in the pawn shop down the street, it won't mean anything unless you have that serial number already on file somewhere. Register all of your products with the manufacturer whenever possible. You will have a hell of a time dealing with an automotive theft claim as the thief used your car keys. Keep those safe. Make copies of all your important documents, including copies of all your credit cards. It will be 100 times easier to cancel all of them if a thief gets them. Shred any important documents you are throwing out. I could write endlessly about identity theft. I'll save that for another day. Regularly back up your computer to some cloud-based service. Dropbox, Google Drive, etc. If someone steals your laptop, it shouldn't mess up your life. Install some sort of tracking app on your computer and phone right now if you haven't.
Let's suppose that you're writing a
I'm gonna head over for
to a colleague,
because they look pretty weak.
Already.
Why?
I did some thefting in my youth. I'll leave that at that. Keep in mind I was no mastermind. When picking a house, besides the obvious answers like a full mailbox and newspapers scattered about, I often picked houses by the stupid tricks people use when they go out of town. Leave the radio on, leave the TV on, leave the lights on, etc. Tons of lights on, and an obnoxiously loud TV on in the living room at 2 a.m. on a Sunday night in an upper-middle-class neighborhood.
And now they're on my wanted
potential
list.
house, I'd obnoxiously ring the doorbell, then run away and watch for activity.
You're gonna see that their bed's
After
gonna be
that, if I felt comfortable, I'd try to gain entry. If it was too hard, oh well. Every time I broke or opened a window or door, I would run away again for a half hour or so and watch for activity. Even if I had to do it in multiple steps. For example, break the window by the door, then run away and wait.
Actually,
come back and ajar the door, then run away again. I did this because of an irrational fear of silent alarms. Obviously, if I saw any kind of activity or set off an active alarm, I would leave. So you want to keep me out your house. Don't appear as a target, full mailbox, obstructed view of the house from streets. Don't make it easy for me. Have lots of deadbolts, active alarms, motion lights, dogs, etc. I wouldn't mess with any of that stuff. If I do get in your house, don't keep small valuables all about. I often did all my work afoot, and stole money, jewelry, small electronics, etc. Have a safe basically. Hope that helps. I'm reformed now, but you can still judge. All of this is great advice. But the number one way to keep a burglar out of your house is to keep burglars out of your life.
So coming back to the base, but I am really low on health.
66% of all burglaries are committed by people known to the victim. Sketchy son-in-law, jealous neighbor, drug addict daughter. These are the people most likely to burglarize your house. It may be tough to cut these people out of your life. Cameras and alarm systems often deter these people. Try to hide information about your whereabouts from them. Don't post your upcoming trip to Belize on Facebook where they can see it. Give the local pawn shop a picture of your sketchy drug addict son-in-law. Tell them if he's pawning things, it's probably stolen from you. They may not seem interested, but believe me, pawn shops aren't interested in trouble. They'll send him out the door if he comes in. For your windows, please use a fly screen and bar it up. It makes a lot of noise to break into. The fly screen is obvious. You don't want some pissed off burglar releasing thieves into your house. The thieves will then pick the door. Double doors, metals and big doors are good. Get some good locks, but this is where the double door comes in because it takes longer to pick. As the door is the most likely avenue since windows are secure, you should secure it with cameras. I'm going to throw out the idea of having an automated warning, when motion detected, and viewing the security feed. This way, since the most likely entry point is your door, you'll have two that they'll have to break through, and in that time you can contact the police, and sure, they may get in, but they won't have much time. A dog is a good defense against backdoor entry, which is also a weak point in a lot of houses. Play something on a tablet or the radio. Noise is also good. It makes people think there's someone inside. Redirect calls from your home to your mobile. This is because people would check by calling the house multiple times and hanging up if there's someone picking up. Lastly, neighbors. Be friendly, talk to them and know your neighborhood. Nothing is better than a physical body presence and people having each other's backs. Thieves aren't interested in robbing a home highly secured. It takes time and the risk associated is much higher than an insecure house. They will hunt around the block looking for targets. The idea is to prevent your home from looking like an easy target. Even if they choose it, make it seem like the house is occupied. If they continue, make it hard to get in and enough time for you to call the police. No home is ever safe. All homes can be broken into. But because people robbing houses aren't exactly big shots, they're usually just some low-life idiot who needs some quick cash.
I'm gonna go grab some diamonds.
First of all, I'm not coming in at night while you're asleep. The hypothetical, I'm because nobody's saying it admits to criminal behavior, so I'm definitely just a kid on the internet trying to sound cool. I'm coming during the workday when nobody's home. But just to be on the safe side, since some burglars are also rapists and murderers, sleep with your burglar alarm set. Most alarms have an instant setting where they'll go off right away if a door is opened, as opposed to that 60-second countdown to give you time to enter the alarm code. Even if you can't afford to pay a monitoring company to actually monitor your alarm, still get one installed that makes tons of noise, and post alarm signs everywhere. If I am coming to murder and rape you at night, in addition to stealing your belongings, I'm coming in the back door, not the front. Your neighbors can see your front door, so if I kick it in, they see a broken front door if they happen to look out their window. But how often do you see your neighbor's back door?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm being toxic.
You can buy the other bases.
Max.
Alright, time to go to the other two bases that we destroyed. Yes. Oh, Brian, you really should come play some Bed Wars. It's really fun.
No want to.
It's super easy.
Movie? There was, no times yet, so.
No times yet?
Bowling is from 5 to 10.
Staying there from 5 to 10?
No, I'm saying those are the open bowling hours. But, we're trying to find the movie beforehand because we don't want to drive all the way up there and, like, miss the time, so.
So what day are you thinking about going on with that?
For bowling. But, don't, movie. But, movie, we don't know. So if we don't do a movie, we might just hang at Liberty Center for a bit. So So really, you could just like come when we go bowling, because if we'd go to Liberty Center, it'd probably just be like walking around the mall for like an hour and then leave. So yeah, so you should be good no matter what we do.
No problem.
Max, we're about to lose our streaks. Yeah? All you have to do is just open up your phone. Because I delivered it 15 hours ago.
Oof. That guy fell into the void.
What? Oh well. Too late. I'm trying to think of what game I want to play.
Wars. With the boys.
No, I know. It's just that I have so many games right now. I don't know which one to play. I don't want to play this. I want to play my games. Like
I need Bed Wars.
I can do. No, if anything, I'll play the survival world. But every other server is kind of boring.
Max, be on keen alert. Be on keen alert.
I would say we could play Uno, but like no one here has Uno.
Yep, you're right about that one.
Like it's only $1 or something or $2.
I don't have any money, so.
Yeah, it's really cheap. And then all the DLCs, like in total, it comes up to like $5 for all the DLCs.
Ooh. Brian.
And Uno.
Brian.
What?
Did you see Gold Season Pass holders can bring friends for $20?
On Wednesdays, yes.
On Wednesdays?
Yeah. On Thursdays, it brings it down to $40. Like on any other day, it's $40. Wednesday, it's $20.
Gotcha. But to my
People who have Gold Pass.
She uses it every day.
Yeah. Yeah. KI, I think we're gonna do next week. And then after that, we'll be done with things. Because then school will be starting soon.
Wait.
I just got my book I need to read today.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna read Enrique's Journey.
Enrique's Journey?
Yeah, that's the name of the book.
Joking, right? That's the name of the book.
Yep, Enrique's Journey.
Right now, Max.
The story of a boy's dangerous odyssey to reunite with his mother. I literally just like chose a book off the list and was like, screw it, I'm reading that. Yep.
Ah, shoot. I need materials.
That means they're all really bad. Can't tell if that was an insult or a compliment.
Never know with Max.
Maybe
Indeed.
it's both.
It's an insult and a compliment.
Oof.
He would tell you, but then he'd have to kill you.
Oh, that's rough. That's rough. I don't. It's kind of like.
Not really.
It's team fight tactics. It's just abbreviated as TFT.
It also could stand for Team Fortress 2. But y'all want to be lame like that. But I call it, that's just like
Well, TF2 is now fun to play. No, isn't. Team Fortress 2 is not fun.
Why?
Because I already knew how to play it, so when I originally started playing, I was just dominating.
Honestly, let's just save up for what's that called? Basically, Avengers Endgame. The dragons. Dragons.
What? Wait.
What? Team Fortress 2 has endgame spoilers? Max, can you go to art again? Can you usually build out there and get diamonds and stuff and do upgrades? No?
Max, you know what we should do sometime? We should stream, our Minecraft world.
Which one of the server? Or the
Survival.
If you really wanted to.
Well, it's kind of hard to transfer between two different servers, because when you can only log in at one at a time, so you can't have two pages open and log into two accounts, because it'll sign you into one account at all times. So if there's a confirm button on one, you have to switch back over, and I just said that it doesn't work. It's they're shared accounts. It's like you can only. I know. There we go. Finally, TFT starting. No, TFT, not TF2.
Team Fortress Endgame.
No! Come on, game. No, I need Garin. No! Oh, thank God, no one took Garin. Someone just took Garin from me. Screw them. I'm starting out with Garin. Little did you know, I'm gay.
Little did you know, I know how to do something called a pro gamer move.
Obviously Garin.
Garen! It's not Garin! He's not from the south, brother.
It's Garin, you're right.
He ain't from the south. Just got hit by something.
Yo, there are so many good people in
they're
this.
throwing arrows at me, Max.
Okay, you know what?
Oh. I keep missing anyways.
Loser, you only have one Elise. You have a Lysandra and a Tristana. And a... Oh, you have two Tristanas.
Oh, I'm gonna put my stuff in an chest real quick. I don't want to lose any of my stuff. More. No, I put all my stuff in the E-chest. You did. Watch out, they're gonna be coming for us soon.
Yeah, you know what?
Man, you must love League.
I'm just trying to get better at TFT.
Tift.
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 Let's play some Tift.
Jackie. I would say Dwight.
Max. Too far, buddy. Bought us an Ender Pro.
Is the server open?
No.
Oh.
Why would it be open if I'm playing in TFT? I almost said TF2. I almost said TF2.
TFT2.
Thought they came for us. I'm like, no way, because I dropped, bro. I'm just gonna save up for an iron golem, and we're just gonna put an iron golem with us in here.
Yes, I'm going against the person who only has one Elise.
I forgot, we get emeralds now.
Oh my god. You pleb.
So buy golden apples.
Nothing
buy
else
golden
except that one Elise.
Did you play a Watkins Scott test again?
Yeah, white in us. And cross. And not across, but like diagonal, I guess. I don't know.
Did you play the
No,
Scott
don't attack. Just stay here. Just stay here. There's no point. Stuff, we're ready for him. No, but there's no point. Cause then, like, we could get hit. Yeah, no, they have bows and stuff. There's no point. They'll knock us off and kill us.
Yeah, just
No matter, they can still kill us.
what about you? Alright, stuff.
Oh, Max, stop. Max, actually don't.
I'm not having good ideas.
Oh crap, you have a Mordecai, Darius, Ari, and Tristana. Oh crap, I'm gonna lose this. Unless I can kill Arya.
That's your whole point.
There we go.
That was me.
No crap, Darius! No!
Darius Rucker?
There we go, never mind, I won. Crap, no, I didn't. It's hilarious, it's Yordle against Yordle.
Max,
Yordle against Yordle?
No! I lost.
Max, did you play the Scott and Watt test again? Oh. When a child drops her
Brian, you should do the Scotsman and
lose.
Watson or whatever it's called test.
Gosh, dang it! Of
wanna
course,
do
now I get a poppy.
Wisconsin and Watson test. Honestly, that's a better ring to it. The Wisconsin Watson test.
The Scott and Watson test?
I don't care. We don't have everything diamonds. Like, we literally have every diamond upgrade.
What are you guys playing?
Do we? We do,
Sean,
right?
what are you playing? Bed Wars?
Max, we don't. We don't have protection 4. We're playing Bed Wars. Jackie, you wanna join us?
Maybe. Or I just might play Dauntless for the rest.
Okay. Whatever, boats your float.
Yes, Poppy! Oh, come on. No! Wait, no, I should be first.
I
for
might
League.
join Brian in the league though.
It's fine.
No! Come on, no one take Poppy, no one take Poppy, no one take Poppy, please. Please. Please! Please! No! Poppy. Poppy. Now. Haha! Screw you, I'm taking her.
Well then.
Yes.
Whatever boats your float, Sean says.
Wait, do I have a Cassidon? No, I don't.
Cassidon's so I'm kidding. Cassidon's good.
Cassidon's good, but I don't want to risk it. Like, yes, let's go. I can have a level 3 Mordecai after.
I'm about to
Oh crap!
die.
I'm level 5.
I'm AFK.
Whatever boats your float.
I don't want another. I already have one. 4?
How is someone still at 100 health?
Well, I
What
give
is
up
it?
on Dauntless already.
I'm honestly bored of Dauntless. We like grind it so quickly. I just got bored.
I like the game when you have people to play with. Dauntless is only fun if
Y'all overplayed
Yeah.
it way too much.
I still think it's fun though. Are you guys on?
Yeah, we're on. We're on a match real quick, so just wait a second.
Jackie, how good is Volabear?
Get a sausage McMuffin with egg,
Volabear?
bacon, egg, and cheese
Yeah.
biscuit,
It's
or
only
peanut
good.
butter
Vanderwaal?
grills. Any two for just
Vanderwaal?
hot and tasty.
I'm not gonna use him because
That's
like
breakfast at McDonald's.
Wait, Brian. When's your game done?
oh, it like just started. The person with the lowest is 47.
Okay, tell me when you die.
I'm the highest with 97.
I don't care. Tell me when you die.
Okay.
You're gonna die one way.
I'm like gonna be like too cocky and just like die.
We're gonna play a 5, but Brian's gonna be a constant. Keep playing TFT.
I wanna play 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna play 5, but Brian's gonna
Why,
keep playing TFT.
why can't we just play 3?
Rosie can play 2, but then that's 4. And we can get Thomas, that's 5.
I don't know how to play. Yeah, I have it.
Doesn't take that long to learn. It's pretty easy.
Oh, we were 5.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do you keep giving me Ash? I don't want Ash.
Wait, you have 5?
Rosie, what's your user?
Play it when I want.
Because with you they have 5.
Wait, how do they have 5?
You! Or, actually, no. I don't know.
Wait, who's it?
Someone her name does not exist, Rosie.
Hold on, I'll type it in chat if I can get into chat.
Oh, that's 5? Oh, I thought you guys meant
Hey, you
like
stupid.
No, you guys said you guys have 5. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not playing it. Yeah, well, I was like, what is it? Maybe I guess I just don't play it.
I'm telling Cheryl what.
Yeah, I
Stop healing.
Are you in the middle of a game right now?
Yeah.
What, a TFT or an actual game?
TFT.
Oh, God.
I wanna press the Windows button.
Leora and Justina, and I can have.
Hey, Rosie, press alt.
I'm gonna type it in a second.
If you on Minecraft too, Jack?
Die, they're gonna come after me!
You on Minecraft too?
I just got off.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Always fireballs, every guardian,
Mute Mike, always mute
11
Mike.
golden apples. Coming for me, Mac.
Okay, there we go.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. TFT is a game mode in League of Legends.
Way better than
What? How dare you? He already has a level 2
Mac,
Mordecai and a level 2
Can
Garen.
you type in chat, see
I'm
that blue?
screwed. And level 2 Varius.
Someone named Hayes Luna 1 that does not exist.
Okay, then try it without the 1.
There you go, I sent you a friend request. Retard.
Hey, I'm sorry!
Nothing. It's not
It does
working.
not exist.
I should do it without the one. That's my bad.
Stupid.
Oh.
I invited you, Rosie.
I know, hold on. Who's Sama?
Earning themselves.
That's Thomas.
I got one of them. I got one of them, Max. It's just me.
How
This
do I
one did.
join?
Rosie, why are you in a game?
I'm not in a game. How do I join?
This is an AI game for me.
Oh, I think she's doing.
How do I
What are you
join?
doing?
Oh, I see.
Tutorial.
No, I'm not.
Oh yeah, she's
Wait,
doing a
what?
tutorial. It says, "Hey, it's Luna is not currently available to join."
And then
Oh yeah, she has to go through tutorial.
How do I do that?
You just gotta complete it.
yeah.
Well, how do I start it?
You're
Well, I mean, I have a golden apple too. And another iron gold. And another iron gold.
Screen share.
Wait, what?
I mean, here comes the dragon.
Thomas, Mom's calling you.
Oops, I just closed.
I think he did, but he failed.
Thomas.
Exit for a second.
Rosie, did your game just crash?
No, I exited out because it was like
Why?
I don't know. Okay, I don't know how to start.
My GTA is almost finished. 5 more minutes.
I'm lagging.
No, I'm not gonna leave. I'm just saying.
Okay, good. Draven's good.
We almost won. Alright, we're done, Jackie. Wait, are you playing with us? No, you're not.
I can seriously not tell the difference between Gladiator Draven and the regular one.
Hmm?
dang it, I'm last one.
Okay.
Oh, never mind. I thought I read something. He's in a game.
Crap, there's really no one good to grab. Oh well.
If only I can gift your own skins to someone else that you already know. If you have a skin.
If only you could unlock the pets.
Hey, Max, before you start a second game, let me go to the bathroom real quick.
Hey,
So how y'all doing? How y'all doing? Huh? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Okay. Here you guys. No, no, no.
My Ari profile is way better. I'm kidding.
So, like mine is just a rose because I
I'm
couldn't get.
here.
No, talking about
I'll throw over their name. Oh shoot! I keep forgetting you have that. It's like honestly, I kind of.
Oh, let's go, my Garen.
Yeah, trade to me, please. Trade, please. This is island treasure, Jack. Please. I want it. I want it. But you have the you took my pajama, are you?
What?
Maybe I should play Poppy for a round.
I don't have. I just need one more poppy, and I can't get a friggin' poppy.
That's
I need one more Mordecai or one more poppy.
I just want Academy Ari, to be honest.
Oh, I got it.
That's such a thick skin.
Maybe I should buy it.
Okay, now I need 3 more more cards.
That's such a thick skin. Look at that.
I don't
You got the bow tie.
I don't like Academy Ari.
I mean, she's got cat ears too. That's
Door.
thick.
Your front porch light is great for letting me know you're home and will probably
Our-
stop me
our
from walking by to
arcade,
check
Ari,
if you
looks like he
forgot
just
to
came out
lock
of-
it. But if I'm
Odyssey.
breaking in at night, I know you're home already.
Odyssey,
Keep your
yeah,
back
so-
porch light on.
I have no
Have some
idea what
floodlights
you're
installed in the backyard.
Max, you ready to go?
If you like dogs, get a mean dog.
Emo.
If you don't,
Bruno.
still post signs saying you have a mean dog.
I know
I'm not
that's what I'm
worried about
doing,
getting
but
eaten by
like,
your dog,
Wait, where's
but if you're
Yasuo
one of
at?
those annoying ones that
Why?
barks up a
Yeah,
storm,
there he
I'll
is.
leave before he
I
gets me
think the
caught.
Yasuo
You can
skins-
find some how to about this on the internet.
Oh, let me
Yeah.
see
People
the
can
last one.
supposedly get your garage door open from the outside if you don't get some
That-
zip ties and secure the emergency
Round of
catch.
Yasuo.
I've never done
Project
that,
Yasuo
but
is
the
kinda
theory
weird.
that it could be done makes
I don't
sense.
like.
If someone's in your garage, they can close the garage door and have all the time in the world away from prying eyes to work on getting
Yeah,
into your
you're
home.
right.
Or just stealing your
came out of
cars
the
and
anime.
power tools. Deadbolts are great, but
No,
your
I
lock
finished
hardware
the
is usually
Warfare
attached to your
series.
door frame with tiny screws, so a good kick will
God.
bust the whole contraption out no matter how hefty the actual bolt is or how awesome your door is. You
I
want to
can
replace
star.
those
What
tiny
is
screws
this?
with insanely
Oh,
long,
this looks
durable
really cool.
ones. Again, internet can
what?
help
I
with
just-
this. They also sell these funny
I
cane-looking
just
things you
want
can wedge
one, yeah.
below your doorknob to make kicking in your door
Ooh, do I
harder.
buy Draven
They
or
don't
no?
really work, but if a guy is
No.
stupid and desperate and tries a few kicks and can't get the door open enough, he might just move on versus making more noise and risking notice.
Oriana, wait.
But seriously,
He's only got 2
nobody
skins.
breaks in at night.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive
never
out
do
to
that.
an upper-middle-class suburban
I
neighborhood
have to go
off the
click
beaten
the
path
clip.
during the day.
Wow.
You know how you paid extra for that
Three
house with a
Akali all in a
45-minute
row.
commute to work because of all the trees, hiking trails, and being farther from the traffic and bustle of town?
Unfortunately,
Unless you're
yeah.
paying homeowners
all she
association
has- I don't
dues
think
out
she's
the
that
butt for
good. All she
constant
has is
patrols,
damage. She has
you're
no
pretty
movement,
unprotected.
no
That's the kind of
crowd
neighborhood
control,
I'm
no toughness,
visiting.
no
I'm
utility,
going
she's
to
just
watch your house
damage.
and a few
That's
others on
basically
your
it.
street for a few days and see
Okay.
where people come and go.
Basically,
So as we wait for Rosie and
normal 9
Brian
to
to
5 and
finish,
don't come
Yeah,
home
like,
for
well,
lunch and your
I-
neighbors mostly do the same. I'm going for either your garage or the back door.
I'm gonna try
Probably
to work
around
with my
mid-morning,
GTA 5.
maybe noonish.
Oh,
I
come
might
on,
have a
switched
tool
to
belt,
game mode.
great for carrying
We're
useful
not playing,
tools and
we're
also
waiting for
passing
Rosie.
myself
You're
off
gonna
as a
play TFT?
handyman. Cable guy, a guy who reads meters, or something
Okay,
similar in the
turn
rare
the
case
vaccine.
that someone sees me. I'm not after your
want-
okay,
TV.
I'm crossing
Yo,
my
I
The hell can
fingers.
walk into a
Wow.
house and walk out with a
Crossing my
57-inch
fingers.
LCD display that you
I
probably
want-
wall-mounted, making me spend an hour getting it down. It's whatever I can grab in 10 minutes or less and carry out with me easily. If you own guns or jewelry or valuable portable electronics, hide them, get a safe,
I know.
etc.
And so is Ari.
Now if you
And
let me
what are the
sneak
other
into your
Jackie Boys? I
garage,
can't see.
I might just park my car in there, close the garage door, and spend an hour loading whatever I can fit into my trunk. A lot of people don't think that hard about securing their garage when it's a pretty good point of entry. Plus you have some valuable stuff in there. Some houses even have little screen doors
Max, I need
going from
Max.
their yard into the
Max,
garage.
I need
If you have an
Max.
attached garage, get rid of that crap.
Annie? I've never seen her.
He's trying to imply
Thanks for
he's gonna
listening to
die.
Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button for more videos like this one. Let me know in the comments if you just became as paranoid as I did when making this video. And please let me know what you do to make it harder for burglars in your house.
Jack,
Max, bring a TNT, bring a TNT.
Jack. Look at Blitz
Blick.
Crank. Blitz Crank.
What?
Jack, look at Blitz Crank and look at definitely not Blitz Crank. That's like the best skin I've ever seen so far.
Green.
Big nose, giant glasses.
Ooh. They're really bad.
Why does Caitlyn have so many skins?
TNT, bring TNT.
Darius.
Miss Fortune does not deserve her own legendary skin, ultimate skin.
I got him! Oh, he didn't die.
Wait, how many ultimate skins are there?
5. And
Five?
Lux is one of them.
Do you have it or is that?
What?
Wait,
Drop Matt!
DJ girl or Star Guardian?
Please. I need mats!
What do you
I
mean?
don't have any mats!
Like what skin do
Oh,
you
wait,
have?
here, I'll
Lux.
grab mats.
I don't have any ultimate.
Wait, you don't have a skin on. Wait. I thought you had a skin. Lux.
Yeah, I have.
What skin?
Search up Lux and then you find wait. Star Guardian and Pajama.
Alright.
Good, first time GTA startup, everything should be fixed. I'm hoping this works.
Right?
I know it's gonna break.
Just get a new one. Do it all over again.
Wait, is it PJ? PJ girl?
PJ girl.
The PJ mask.
Yeah, a PJ mask.
Rosie, are you done?
No.
Oh my god, GTA 5.exe not found. Please reinstall the game.
Yeah, which one's the ultimate for misfortune? The legendary skin.
Jill and
I
Jack
don't know
are
what I'm
neighbors.
doing. I don't know
And
if
each
I'm
buys
doing
Man, I would say
it.
that's
from different
unfortunate, but
nurseries.
you already know that.
Jill gets fruit the
No,
first
it's
year after
because,
planting her
like,
tree,
it's
and
in
goes
the,
on to pick a huge harvest every season. You see,
It's
fruit
like,
tree
it's
is
in the
naturally
file.
healthy and virtually problem-free. Jack, on the other hand, needs to constantly spray and care for his tree.
but like
Nah,
my
Which takes
GTA
a
is
full 7
retarded.
years
It was
to
already
bear
gone.
any fruit.
Who else
And when
has
it
the,
does, well, the
PJ
fruit
skin?
tastes.
Or the legendary skin?
Job seekers of Reddit, have you ever turned down a job or walked out of an interview because of something the interviewer said or did? Oh yeah, when I was 20 this woman tried to hire me for juggling lessons for her 17-year-old autistic son. I perform at a music therapy event every year and do a group lesson for all the kids, most of which suffer from
who's our
some
friend?
disability.
Who's our friend?
So I drive
We're gonna go for
45
Dre.
minutes to her house and she starts talking about how this is a full-time job. We need to be on call all the time. You are going to have to stop taking college classes. Your duties include helping him wipe and giving him a bath every night. The pay is $8/HR. Yeah, no thanks, lady. I was desperately hunting for a job during college and found myself answering ads in the paper. I responded to a few but no experience necessary ads and was surprised to find that all 3 of them were for Kirby vacuums. Annoyingly, none of them admitted it over the phone, and I wouldn't find out until arriving for the interview and wasting my time and gas. I decided that it was likely all the vague ads were commission-only scams and responded to an ad looking for a secretary. They promptly scheduled an interview, and I arrived to find they were Kirby vacuums. They justified themselves by saying that I would be filing some paperwork during the course of sales, so it somehow was a secretary position. I walked out. I responded to an ad that clearly stated they were looking for people to help load and unload electronics at a place
Of course I go
called
against the
Aloha
highest
Sound
level,
Systems.
the highest
When
level
I got
person
there,
of
they too were
96.
Kirby. They met me with a lame excuse
Agrees
about
after.
occupying a
I'm the
building
second highest.
that had once housed Aloha Sound Systems, so they were somehow justified in using their name, and that vacuums were electronics,
God.
so they never lied. I walked
He's
out.
a level
I
7.
was
How
mostly
much
through
XP
college
do you
and
buy?
had some limited knowledge of computer animation, and took a chance and responded to an ad looking for an assistant to help with some animating. I drove out for the interview and was shooting the breeze with the secretary, and we came to the series of job interview bait and switches Kirby had pulled on me, and how happy I was to see an ad for a job that couldn't possibly be Kirby. I looked over, and the secretary was staring at me red-faced
Oh my
and
God, I just
tight-lipped,
need one
and
more
I just
Mordecai.
said no fucking way, as she launched into a hasty justification about being allowed to make multimedia presentations to help me sell
Aurelian
vacuums.
soul,
It
but
was like a scene out of a sitcom. As a very naive 18-year-old, I responded to an ad that said they were looking for masseuses and were willing to train. I gave them a call, and the woman I spoke with was very nice and said lots of positive things about the job. She must have caught on to how clueless I was though, because at one point she just kind of
Aha, I
bluntly
got a
asked,
spatula.
"You do know this job involves sex, right?" Flustered, I thanked her and hung up. I was brought into an interview with the information that the company was looking to hire administrative assistants. I sat through about 5 minutes of my interview, and then the interviewer said to me, "Before we get started, how quickly can you purchase a vehicle?"
What's your favorite skin?
I
You
explain
and Jack?
I'm currently unemployed, so purchasing a vehicle is out of the question. Does the administrative position require errands as part of the duties? Interviewer says, "Oh, we hired the admin positions already, but we felt you would be perfect for sales."
Wait, so what does the golden
I'll let them
spatula
know
do?
they had completely wasted my time, and it was incredibly unprofessional, and left. Yeah, I was doing a phone interview with a company in Florida Keys. My interviewer told me the salary, not nearly enough to pay for the cost of living, said I would always have to work weekends, and I would never ever get a raise. Ever. Then he tells me that, if I'm considered one of the top 3 candidates, I would be expected to fly out to Florida on my own dime for an in-person interview. Then he asked me, if I were picked for the top 3, when would be the soonest I could fly out to Florida?
I started explaining to him that I need to give 2 weeks notice to get a day off. So 2 weeks from now? Then he said, well, what about Wednesday? It was Friday. So I was like, 5 days from now? When he said yes, I started laughing and said, are you kidding me? Dude got mad and snapped at me. Yes, I'm serious. We are trying to get this position filled as fast as possible. We don't have time to wait 2 weeks. If you don't think you can fly down here sooner rather than later, then maybe you're not the right candidate for this position. To which I replied, yeah, you're right. I don't think I'm the right candidate for this position. My interviewer immediately softened and started saying stuff like, well, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. We seem to have gotten off track.
Of course,
Tell me more about your experience.
Of course.
And when I kept saying, look, I'm clearly not a good choice for your company, he kept cutting me off and insisting that we continue the interview. A few days later, I got a call from the company again, informing me that I was one of the top 3 candidates. Congratulations. Way to go. So when should they expect me for my interview? For another 5 minutes of insistence that I didn't want the job before finally cutting them off and hanging up.
has not been found.
Interviewer told me if I wanted to work there, I'd have to violate the legally binding confidentiality of my previous employer.
This is the bad thing about scripting your GTA 5.
And said, guess I don't want to work here. About 10 years later, same guy shot / killed his wife and a passerby in a parking garage. Several times now.
I'll be back.
Actually, the most hilarious one. There was a promotions company that needed a graphic designer to add to their team of 4. We were walking and interviewing so they could show me the office, and they got to where I would be working. It was a closet. There were 4 people in there, desks pushed along every wall. The back of their chairs touched. They were so crammed close together. Their Mac screens were edge to edge all the way around. There were no lights. I repeat, literally no lights. They looked up at us as we opened the door with like giant Mac screen glowing eyeballs. It was the creepiest and most bizarre workspace I'd ever seen. When we started walking back to the interviewer's office, I basically said I had to go. They offered me the job the next day, and I said no. While I was in college, I found a job looking to hire someone for a management position in a sales company. As my major was business management, I thought, hey, great. I called them up and asked them if this was actually for a sales job, as I was suspicious that they would be straight up hiring people outside of the company for management. They assured me it was not. When I got there for the interview, I was leading the room with about 20 other interviewees. We then watched a product demo video about whatever crap they were selling. After the video, they started to tell us about how much of the product we were expected to sell, etc. I politely interrupted the speaker and asked if this position was a sales job or a management job, as I had already clarified that on the phone. The speaker gave me a subtle oops, you got me wrong, and confirmed that it actually was a sales job. I thanked the speaker, stood up and walked out of the conference room without looking back. I was about 20 years old and felt like a total badass as the other interviewees stared in shock at me. I had an interview with a marketing company. I walked into their office, and on the wall it said marketing company. That was not their name. Everything looked like it had been set up the night before. At the end of the interview, the interviewer gave me a business card. Not his business card, but the business card of some other company that used to have his current phone number. He crossed out their name and put his own. The interview was about 4 to 5 months ago, but I remember there seemed to be a red flag every few minutes or so of her talking. You cannot do any freelancing after hours, even if it's for free. I don't need you staying up until midnight and coming in tired. In my head I wanted to say, but what if I'm up to midnight, having sex every night? Would that be okay? Like, the guys here have no idea about attention to detail. I think that's a guy thing, but I can't trust them to not make mistakes. When I asked why the previous designer was leaving, it's just time for her to move on. I mean, she gets here at 9 AM and won't even say good morning to those around her. Mind you, I don't want people chatting and looking at social networks even at lunchtime. That's why I've got full view of everyone's workstations. Slagging off about her employees in general. Egg the studio manager with teenage daughter problems. I'm sure there were other things I've forgotten. because I remember being so
They're hacking.
incredulous.
They have to be hacking.
But my favorite red flag
literally
interview
just joined that, what the heck?
I always ask, what would your employees say is the best thing about working here? Good employers with good environments can instantly respond with favorable responses and be enthusiastic and credible with their replies. This woman, she paused. She continued pausing. It was like I'd asked her the last question to win $1 million. Her brow furrowed, and finally she responded with, well, the freelancers I get. Say it's a nice quiet place to work. Seriously, woman, you can't even answer off the top of your head. Freelancers are not your regular employees. And that is what you see as the most enticing benefit of working here? Yes. The temp agency I work for sent me to interview at this tech place in the summer of 2013. And from the moment I set foot in the building, everyone there was super rude to me. The security guard didn't even greet me when I came in. She just barked at me that I can't bring my purse inside and that I need to go move my car to the guest lot, which turned out to be literally a quarter-mile away. So I move my car, leave my purse in it, and trudge back to the building in 105-degree Texas heat in my now damp business casual outfit, only to be greeted by a sour-faced Taiwanese lady who scowled at me and told me to follow her and hurry up. She gave me 2 boards to solder, and when she graded the first board and told me sharply that it was no good, I failed the second board on purpose. No good my ass. I used to solder for Hitachi. I'm damn good too, but this place's equipment was something out of a third world country. Right after I left, I called the temp agency and told them to find me something else cause I'd rather gargle hot garbage juice than work at that dump. None of the employees were smiling. The place was dirty and run down, and the whole atmosphere was just depressing and suffocating.
I need to build the diamond
Yes, interviewer was 25 minutes late. Was rude and bitchy, asked questions that were extremely irrelevant, more so than normal job questions. The interviewer had no knowledge of the job or technologies involved, misspoke and used incorrect words to describe things. Stated their leadership style was basically do what I say or leave. They also had a strict dress code of suit/tie, even though the department was not customer facing at all. I asked why. She said that wearing casual clothes is a bad practice, because employees wouldn't be serious and get work done. When I asked her what she thought would happen, she basically, in so many words, said we would all just forget we're at work and goof off all day because we would be relaxed. She was dressed like shit FYI wearing a muumuu. Stated they wanted someone who had 5+ years experience with Windows 8 over 8, 1 and millisecond Office 2013/OneDrive. When I explained that these technologies had only been out recently, at the time, she became furious and stated plenty of people applied with more experience than she was asking. So, basically this lady was incompetent. Not sure how she got her job, but she basically told me there was no work-life balance, no teamwork or camaraderie, and she knew jack shit about software dev. This is my most upvoted comment ever. Thanks everyone. The interviewer didn't know what position I was applying for. We had just talked to 15 minutes. Then he quoted me an hourly rate way less than what was advertised, then tried to get me to sign a piece of paper where the hourly rate was blank so he could fill it in later. Yup. For a local Village Voice type of newspaper in my hometown. The editor was just a complete condescending asshole. He said he didn't believe my resume. I was pretty young and had done a lot as I had been supporting my family since my mother became ill when I was 14. He told me to write 28 questions right in front of him about the position. It was a marketing position that we had gone over for about an hour already, and then he would read the questions. I reluctantly started to write, and he said, "Just because you have experience doesn't mean you're not a loser without a degree."
You ready? Next to do again?
Hell yeah. Early in my career I was applying for an hourly help desk. I was advised that up until 40 hours a week we were hourly and would be paid for hours worked, but that when we were required to work overtime, we would be paid as salaried employees for our 40 hours. They explained that they weren't profitable enough to pay more. So I advised them that it was against the law to have policies like that, and got up and left.
Yeah, my GTA isn't starting and I'm scared.
Wait, who's a tank? Oh.
Retail/service workers of Reddit. What's the best instant karma you've seen happen to a rude customer? Worked at a telecom in Canada. I am no longer an employee, thank God. Lady comes in with a broken iPhone, is demanding to get a new one for free. If you don't know, in Canada the iPhone 6s is going for about $400 upfront on a 2-year contract, at a minimum $80 plan. She had a good plan, but wanted it for free. She called up our loyalty team in store and spent the next 2 hours screaming at them. Finally, they agreed a deal, and she is getting it for $0.
The guy from the video is dead? Is that what you're saying?
I do not want a case, and Apple Care is a scam. We work on commission, so this essentially meant I was getting nothing, and ruining my numbers. She keeps telling me
to be fair, it did take her like an hour
to get them out of the store with everything transferred over and set up. She grabs the phone and starts marching off, saying I was a terrible employee. She gets 3 steps out of the store and drops the phone. Shattered screen and white screen of death. She ran back in asking what I can do. I shrugged and went, sorry, but Apple Care sure would have helped, eh?
I'll fix my
I
GTA
work at an
tomorrow.
auto parts store.
Thanks.
This one guy stole some $60 head.
You might want to build our base, bud.
We went to look outside to try and get
Oh
his
no,
license
James
plate,
wasn't pretty
just in time to see him speed off, hit a curb, and blow out his tire. Called the cops and the dumbass got arrested
My
and had
case
to
is
have
so
his
dirty.
car towed. Standing at the counter of the pizza place I work at, lady storms in and slams a pizza down on the counter. This isn't the ducking pizza I ordered. What the hell are you going to do about it?
Yeah, Johnny Ducky.
She asked. I look at the pizza, then at my buddy Nick, and turn back to her and say, nothing.
I require
She then goes on a long rant telling how we are going to be fired, how stupid and incompetent we were. She actually told me I must be retarded, then asked why the hell we weren't going to do anything. I said, because that pizza came from the pizza shop across the street. I think she actually managed to shrink in and slink out looking so pathetic and beaten. I almost felt bad for her.
No, it took like half an hour at least.
Down my face as she slunk off. More than a few decades ago,
10
I worked
minutes
at
off.
Denny's. I had 2 male customers that decided to dine and dash,
Ma,
got their
please
license
don't.
plate
Oh, green,
number and
down
reported
first.
it to the cops, and
Am I
jokingly
talking? Oh, I
mentioned
am
that they
talking.
didn't even tip. Later that night they got pulled over for DUI. Cops recognized license plate number from the report. Brought them both back to the restaurant.
You brought
It's okay.
I finished like in 15 minutes.
Pets
Idiot.
are an important part of the family,
What
and
a
they deserve a
noob.
steady diet of love and attention.
Are you even close to destroying the
After
big
he was
crystal?
done paying,
Yeah,
the
we're
cop
breaking it
just
right
stood
now.
there and
Oh
looked
my
at them
God.
and said,
Okay,
well,
Grozy.
the guy sheepishly
Yeah,
handed
Max,
me my
you're going
phone.
first.
Working the window at
24
McDonald's late night.
Yep,
Guy
24.
orders whatever and pulls
24
up to the
minutes.
window. I'm cooking and handling the window, so I wasn't there when the customer pulled up. When I walked up to the window,
It'd be sad if
I
you
didn't see the
lose.
ducker with trash
That
in
was
his
the
lap.
tutorial review
I
lost.
open the window
Yeah,
to
the
take his
tutorial.
card/cash, and he throws a bag of trash at me. I take a step
Oh,
back,
Thomas.
bothered that I
I
just
took off my
got trash
case and I
thrown at me,
dropped my
and I watch
phone.
his car speed off. I'm pissed, but there's nothing I can do. A couple seconds later, I hear a small bang of metal on metal. I walk to the lobby and look out the windows. The douchebag slammed into a police cruiser, who was about to loop around and use the
Mr.
drive-through
Fortune, I think
himself.
is good, right?
Of course, I also
Hey,
went to
Rosie,
tell
you're
the
good.
officer what just happened inside. Worked at Best Buy 10 or so years ago.
I know,
This
but it's
happened on
Rosie.
Black Friday.
I know,
Most of
but
the
it's
customers were in
Rosie.
bad moods, since they'd been waiting hours to come in and stand in more lines.
Oh my
But
God,
this
you
one
should've gotten
lady
Miss
was a
Fortune.
raging bitch. After yelling at everyone in my department about how she needed the laptop that was on sale despite it being sold out, she proceeds
repairing
to
bed,
tell us she'll
just-
have the store closed down because she works with the city and knows the fire marshal, and we have
Join
too
the
many
party,
people in the
Rosie.
store.
Oh, this is gonna be a
So she
terrible
calls
5-on-5.
him, we tell her to leave, and nothing happens to the store. However, we called them as well to report what she'd said, and she got fired from her job for abuse of power. As a teenager, I was working part-time at a convenience store. I was being trained by the late-night cashier.
Yeah, Rosie
This
can't do
dude comes in and grabs a bunch of cans of vegetables and such. and comes to the
Yeah, she has
counter
to
and
be level
stacks the
3.
cans in a very specific way, like a weird kind of pyramid on the counter. As the experienced
You're level
cashier,
1.
my trainer takes each can off the pyramid and rings it up. She reaches the end of the stack and we realize that the weirdo has his cock out and has it laying on the counter behind the cans. Without saying a word, the trainer grabs one of the big heavy metal cans of beans and slams it down as hard as she can on the guy's donk. He screamed an incredible scream of searing pain, grabbed his cock, and ran out of the store. She to me, calmly, you get all kinds on the late shift. Guy comes in and is being a complete asshole. Not wanting to show ID to buy beer even though he looks 20 at the oldest, constantly yelling and swearing. He also had parked in the handicap spot despite not having handicap tags or plates on his car. One of my regular customers, who is the sheriff's deputy, was also in the store. Saw how the guy was acting. Saw where he was parked. Went out, got his ticket book, and wrote the guy a ticket. Guy realized he wasn't getting his beer. Went outside to find he was getting ticketed. I could not stop laughing. I worked at a restaurant that was very popular for brunch, and Mother's Day was probably our busiest day of the year. I had a customer call the evening before and asked for a table for 6, and he was incredibly rude when I informed him that this would simply be an impossibility. He kept getting more and more worked up, asking me to speak to my manager. At first I didn't want to pass the phone over. My manager wasn't the nicest guy, and we were in the middle of a busy dinner shift. But my manager came up behind me and demanded to know why I had been on the phone for so long. I was like, duck it, this customer isn't going to listen to me anyway, and gave the phone to Mac. Mac asked how he could help, listened for about 15 seconds before telling this dude something like, so you're tying up my hostess in the middle of dinner, even though she's already told you nicely that we can't fit you and your goddamn family in the night before our busiest day of the year. Duck you, buddy. And hung up the phone. I'm not sure if defender counts as a retail or service worker, but considering that I provide criminal defense to indigent clients facing deprivation of their rights and freedom, I'll consider it service nonetheless. I was representing a scumbag client who was a massive meth head, who got high and beat the hell out of her 8-year-old daughter with a belt after she accidentally broke his meth pipe. She was charged with child cruelty and possession of meth, and, given her criminal record, the DA's plea offer was 3 years of prison. Needless to say, my client didn't want to go to prison for giving that cunt what she deserved, and started freaking out at me when I told her that's the best offer I was going to get from the DA, and it was either accept that offer or go to trial. I further pointed out the mountain of evidence against her. The photographs of her daughter's injuries, the bloody belt that was recovered from her bedroom, the broken meth pipe with meth residue in it, and the fact that her daughter was going to testify against her at trial. After she was done cursing me out, calling me a public pretender, and every other derogatory name she could think of, she fired me and somehow managed to hire a private attorney for the low price of $8,000. I still don't know how she managed to come up with that, but I have plenty of reliable guesses.
Oh man. So we back in the
You can swing from side to side. Side. Mac, get TNT, please. We can attack you. Disconnect and reconnect real quick. Be careful, coming for you. Is the bed gone?
I'm a melee, so that's not gonna work out right.
Tony, I'm a melee, so
But do you have Lux and Ashy on your side?
Ashy.
Stop saying Ashy, it's so annoying.
It's just
Ash. That's why I'm saying it.
B&H has been pretty much the go-to place for video
It's not
scary. Anything you could need to make high-quality video. They are my go-to.
The The private attorney guaranteed her that he could win her case at trial, and that's exactly what she chose to do. Long story short, the private attorney clearly never even read this woman's file before trial. The trial lasted roughly 3 hours. The jury was literally out for only 5 minutes, and the judge sentenced her to 10 years of prison. It was a good day.
Yeah, I'm almost dead.
Currently at a consignment shop. We have 2 stories of furniture, and it's only things people bring in for us to sell for some of the profit. A lady came in with her son. He was 5 or 6, and she looked around. We had 2 bar stools and she came up to the desk and said, "I'd like to order 2 more of these bar stools." I smiled and said, "We can't do that. Those belong to someone and that's all they had to consign with us." She looks back and says, "Well, why the duck can't you order ones like this? I'm sure you can find them online." I clench my teeth and smile again, saying, "Ma'am, we really can't do that. If you'd like to go online, you are more than welcome to look for yourself, but I can't help you and I'm sorry." She huffed and started walking to the door, talking about getting me fired, making a horrible review of this place. She then got a nice big face full of door. It's a push door and it was locked. She looks at me and screams, "Why the duck is this locked?" I have no idea. Then her son looks at her and says, "Mommy, you were mean to that lady, and I don't wanna go till you say sorry." Best kid ever.
Good job, Max. Good job.
It wasn't the customer. It was the manager. She was awful.
Trying to kill us.
She was rude. Intentionally picked out favorites and gave them presents in front of everyone, even when they didn't like her and tried to avoid it. Messed up schedules on purpose for people she didn't like, etc, etc. Worst manager ever. So there was a huge storm coming in, and people were really worried about it. Like the news telling people to stay home, other businesses closing, etc. So it was up to her to either keep our store open or close it. Of course, she kept it open. Because schools closed, only half our scheduled employees showed up. The rest called in, and she called her favorites and told them they didn't have to come in. Well, as the like 5 of us who showed up were standing there, watching out the front windows, there were 0 customers. She starts yelling at us, threatening to write us all up, etc. And we are like, no one is here, all the work is done. We are watching the wind bend trees over, and worried about if we are safe / will be able to get home. Right about this time we hear a super loud crashing noise. Car chunk, car chunk, car chunk, car chunk. As the industrial air conditioner on top of the building got blown off. Like it rolled along the roof, then went flying into the parking lot. Right onto her car. It was so perfect it was surreal. Dead center. Smashed her car flat. Like if she had been in it, she would have died. And it only happened because she parked right up by the building, where we had specifically been told not to park. All our cars were out in the farthest corner of the lot. We later found out her car wasn't paid off. It was some stupidly expensive BMW or something, and her insurance didn't cover the damage because it was an act of God. Working drive-through at Tim Hortons, and some asshole in a massive black truck parked too far away from the window, and expected me to lean super far out to give him his change. He was really impatient and just really rude. I just shook my head, and so he gets all pissed off and finally gets out of the truck, and the door shut behind him. It was locked and he sat there for like 15 minutes, and we had to call a tow truck. Sure, it pissed off everyone behind him, but at least they were all pissed off at him and not us. He acted like it was the biggest embarrassment of his life. I was a server during college at an upper scale restaurant. I rarely had problems with customers, and I'm overall genuinely friendly. I had a table for 4 with only 3 patrons there, an older couple with their adult daughter. I served them beverages and was told we were to wait for patron number 4 to serve. About 40 minutes until refills go by. I say, I bet you guys are starving by now. Would you like me to bring you our lettuce wraps? They are small enough to not ruin your appetite. Or are we still waiting for my buddy? Father said, we are going to wait. and he isn't your buddy.
How did
Frankly,
Rosa
you
Put a
don't
lobby,
know him.
put a lobby.
He's a hard-working man and will be
Actually,
respected.
I know.
You're right, sir.
But
Forgive
I'm
me.
positive she
He
turned
actually
level
has a real
3 before
job.
me.
I understand, sir.
Right,
It won't
Aiden's
happen
party.
again. When I come back
You guys
for a
doing good,
film
brother?
number
Brian's
3, the
okay,
sun was
Jack-
arriving.
I'm fine.
Even better.
The sun happened to be an old high
Right,
school
but
friend.
I'm waiting for
Before
minions
taking a
to,
seat, he
for us
gave
to
me a
kill.
hug right in front of his dad.
Court.
I looked at the father and said, "Small world hub. I
didn't know
can't
how
believe
bad
you're
my
my
hub
old
was."
buddy. Names. Family. I'm surprised we've never met before.
How many people do we have in this
And
call?
by
No!
spending so much time together in
he's
high
channeling.
school. It's too
Damn it,
bad
I
our
should've
restaurant
pushed.
didn't serve
I thought I
crab.
hit more bots, but Rice literally just killed them. Oh, that sucks.
You mean Skinny Thanos?
Thanos. This game is hard. Like, even though this is bots, it's just.
Jill and Jack are neighbors,
I like it.
and
It's fun.
Whenever you're ready.
each buys fruit trees from different nurseries.
When you're good.
It's fun when you're good.
Come
I
back,
still like
Thomas.
it,
Wait.
Even though I'm bad.
No,
Max.
it's fine. No. Go help,
No, I'm
help
so-
Jack. Go help Jack.
Good idea, actually.
He's got
r/r credit by Reddit.
I got
I'm ready.
in the back.
Ready.
Go middle.
Ready.
Tony, you go
Ready.
mid. I got
Ready.
Jackie.
What is that?
Oh, this guy's also a melee. I should be fine.
Max?
I don't
Max?
even have-
Oh, Tony, Rise isn't that good. You can easily take him down. Only reason I died was because of the turret.
Edify. Guys, what's an instant turn off for an otherwise attractive girl? Smoking. Oh, she's cute. She takes a puff. Never mind. Those looks will deteriorate quickly. Proud of not reading / being smart. I think a genuine curiosity about the world is one of the most attractive qualities in someone. If they have no interest in learning about things, I have no interest in learning about them. I completely agree. A girl who reads a lot is one who can hold a conversation. Or can
I got to
basically
bed this
talk
game,
to
you
you
go to
about
Jen.
large subject areas. Carrot A and D are can fantasize a pretty carrot EPICALLY2. Ugwinka. I'm surprised nobody has said being needy. As soon as I discover a woman isn't emotionally stable on her own, her attractiveness goes down tenfold. Yes, neediness / lack of independence and being emotionally unstable. We've got our own hit to deal with. I'm not carrying your luggage too. We've got our own hit to deal with. I'm not carrying your luggage too. Just wait till you go on vacation with the man. Entitlement. Edit. Got. This got neck, but why? This is the biggest thing for me. I live in a place full of self-entitled rich housewives and it drives me crazy. I'd only deal with their daughters. Constantly on her phone on Snapchat or Instagram taking selfies. I'm okay with a girl being on her phone from time to time. But if I'm in a conversation with a girl and I have to repeat myself over and over because she's glued to her phone, I've already had enough of her. This applies to any gender and any type of relationship for me, friends, etc. Head games, making you chase them and put all the effort in while they refuse to give any back. Doesn't matter how amazingly beautiful they are, is not worth it. Took me a long time to realize this. But why is it, when women start to show more interest, majority of men start to run like scared deer? Isn't that what dating is? A complete mind duck? Edit. Major to majority. Because sometimes instead of just showing interest they really quickly want to hang out all the time. And it starts to feel like one of those relationships where you never have time for yourself or friends. Without them, everyone realizes pretty fast they don't like that. She tells me Haram was just a gorilla. Peens out for Haram. Drama. I hate drama. But it just follow me. If it smells like it wherever you go, check under your shoe. When she don't know about Panji, but does she duck with the war? I was sitting in my shower shaving my legs this morning and seriously thinking about how the girl would even go about answering the question. The rest of my internal shower thought dialogue was in the brain voice. It's been a weird day. Not being attracted to me. So many ruined relationships because of this. My girlfriend told me to get out of her bed. I asked why, and she said I don't know who you are.
But like, Red's
How
not
did you
there,
get
so
into
there's
my
more
house?
diamonds.
So I had to go back to watching from the tree outside her window. Spaces over tabs. This guy ducks. I've been known to duck myself. Not giving back in the conversation. Scored a date with this attractive girl.
He's
Went
Thomas,
out
I
with
was
her
trying to
based
track
on
down the guy that
looks.
we almost killed.
Started off with the basics. Where did you grow up?
No,
Family.
He was
What are
running.
you studying? Etc. The whole date she did not really reciprocate. I would ask her a question, and it would be 1 or 2 words, with no sense of trying to instigate a new conversation topic. Didn't call her back. I posted this before. But everyone loves this story, so I'll post it again. That's the entirety of what she said to me on our date. I met this girl at the mall or something, and I asked her out on a date. She said yes, and I agreed to pick her up at 5 PM on Friday. It's integral to the story that I explained to you that she is not deaf, and she was in fact holding a conversation with me the day we met. I park up and call her as I'm walking to the door. She picks up without saying anything. I say, hey, I'm here. I'm walking up to your door. She hangs up. I ring the doorbell. Her father opens the door. He says hello, then turns and yells for his daughter. Take a note here. Her father said exactly 1 word to me. After a couple minutes she turns around the corner and miraculously she's on the phone again. With someone else. Never found out if it was a guy or a girl. I didn't really listen to her conversation. I was busy crying internally. We get in my car and begin the 25-minute drive to a really ducking nice restaurant. This bill was going to run up close to $150. So you can understand my actions later. She eventually hung up after 15 minutes and immediately switched to texting. She didn't look up from her phone for the rest of the drive. I tried to make small talk. I was asking her about her family, her classes, when she moved here from. I don't remember where. The most I got out of her was a half-hearted HMM. I park up next to the restaurant. I could see her staring at the valet wondering why I didn't get valet. But she didn't say anything. At this point, her father said more words to me than she had. And all he said was hello. So, I get out of the car. She doesn't. I walk over to her door and let her out. She steps out without thanking me and continued texting. I got back in the car and drove away. To this day I'm not sure if she noticed me leave. She never called me angrily. She never texted me asking where I went. That was the last I've seen or heard of her. You can be damn sure I'm not spending $150 to be ignored for another hour. Itch. You can call an Uber. Maybe she thought you were an Uber driver? Most of these answers would keep me from liking anybody, not just a woman. Well, that's kind of how these things work. Unattractive personality traits can apply to both sexes. Extreme Valley Girl voice, like nails on a chalkboard. That combined with vocal fry is a killer. UGHHHH vocal fry. Right. Maybe a little can be hot. Something about a female voice with a little gruffness is attractive. But when I can hear your vocal folds turning into sandpaper, heaven help me. Convicted serial killer. I don't know. Does she smoke? Girls who say it, like I'm a princess, or I'm a goddess. Like, Noick. You're a narcissist. You don't deserve me at my best, if you can't handle me at my worst. Personality types who probably consider themselves outspoken and opinionated. If someone's not prepared to stop for a minute and consider, hey, maybe I'm full of hit, then we are not on the same mental plane. And I can't tolerate their company. There's a healthy middle ground when it comes to being confident about how you feel. I don't want a woman who is pushy to the point that she doesn't respect my opinions. And I don't want a woman who is a pushover to the point that she doesn't have opinions or is not willing to voice them ever. Chewing with her mouth open. My brother's wife's entire family does this. Their family sets a nice dinner table. All utensils in their proper place. Won't let you put your elbows on the table. And all the rest of the fancy etiquette. I'm better than you attitude included. And then they chew like cows, making fun of how cows chew. We have a smoking hot nurse at work that knocks out her lunch like a wood chipper. Scientology. My Elizabeth Moss and Laura Prepon crushes were destroyed when I learned they are Scientologists. Edit. 1p in Prepon. Edit 2. I meant 1p in the middle of Prepon. The next time an actor spouts off about politics, remember how many of them are Scientologists and how smart they really are.
Who's good with a bow?
Scientology.
Come on, kill
or a
him.
left unt
Yeah, good job,
for
Thomas.
me. No love for the middle unts. Fake tan. If it's a good fake tan, you wouldn't notice. So true. It's weird to me when a man finds a woman more attractive with makeup and a tan, but are also more than happy to criticize them for it at the same time. I'd go with materialism. We all like nice stuff, but if that's what's mostly about then, nope. I only dig ethereal girls. If her pineal gland is calcified, and she can't open her third eye, and achieve perfect lucidity in the astral plane, well, I'm out. / this has always been a deal breaker for me. Manipulation and the constant victim mentality. The ones that have no part in the hitty situations they find themselves in, and allow life to just happen to them. They're incapable of seeing their part, which makes it impossible for them to grow and improve. Nothing is their fault. I just had to deal with someone who did this exactly. She was drunk as duck on rum, trying to say she was a pirate, and that's why she drank a lot of rum, but because she was so wasted, she kicked me out, because I didn't want to have sex with her while she was wasted as duck. The next day, she twisted it around to make it my fault for saying no, or my fault for saying no. She wouldn't have flipped out if I hadn't said no. That finally made me understand that she's a manipulating person who plays the victim card instead of owning up to her hitty choices. I find that when people get this way, you can easily look to their family or friend groups to see that they all enable that kind of behavior. Too much Jesus.
Let it drop.
Too much Zeno. Removing their eyebrows and drawing them back on. My friend doesn't have visible eyebrows. She's super blonde, so you just can't see them if she doesn't draw them on. Lack of motivational passion. I have crippling depression, but are you passionate about it?
Yo, Red!
She sets me on fire when I'm
Red!
asleep.
Help! Red!
Until we hear genocide. Narcissism, history of cheating, compulsive lying, low emotional intelligence, extreme insecurity, lacking the ability to empathize. I found that girls with more than one of the above typically have all of the above. They skate by on their looks and have never had to put any effort into their character, so it's usually complete hit. What's scary is that they seem to be getting more and more common. Or maybe not, and I just notice more now that I know what to look for. Narcissism, greater than sign.
Red's got mid and
cheating,
diamonds.
greater than sign. Compulsive lying, greater than sign. Low emotional intelligence, greater than sign. Extreme insecurity,
I can't.
greater than
He's
sign.
got like reach or
Lacking
something.
the ability to empathize.
How?
So you've also
Getting
met my
into
ex.
Bad
Bad manners. Well, with you being a foolish vagabond and all, you can't really talk. I hate myself for being a grandma Nazi, but if she doesn't use the correct you're or there, it is such a turn off for a girl I'd want to date. Claims to be a grandma Nazi, but doesn't use punctuation. Didn't say he was a punctuation Nazi. Low class humor. Like making fun of people for being fat,
Oh, that's where
mentally
Red is
slow,
coming in from.
gay, their race, etc. And it's not only an issue of being an asshole either. If they can't find better things to talk about that I just get bored
my God, he's
and lose
insane.
interest very quickly. My golden rules of comedy I find funny. It punches up,
He's literally
and it
insane.
never makes fun of something a person cannot change. Edit.
Damn,
While
Jack,
being
you
nice
gotta
is
be
very
happy.
frowned upon. So we can still make fun of fat people. Appeal. Not a problem for me. Deg.
my God.
Deg. How about some repentance? Friend. Very heavy fake tan. If it's
Hold up,
like a
bro.
normal
we
tan,
need to build
that's
the mid.
cool.
We need to build a mid.
But over tanning is just gross. We call this color orange. Who look. A word that rhymes with orange. Till I'm the least attractive thing on the planet. Keep in mind that these are just anonymous people on the internet. I like tattoos and don't mind smokers. Those seem to be the biggest problems people have. I'm being mostly facetious. However,
Oh my
if I
God.
took this post and made it a checklist, it would be full of check marks. Tattoos, piercings, recently quit, smoker, opinionated. I'm rather quiet, but if you're full of hate, I'm going to tell you, and more. The weird bull nose ring thing. In high school, my friends brought one of their friends they were all trying to hook me up with. They said she has a lot of piercings, including a septum one. I was joking and said I was going to lick it. Alcohol was involved and we got to making out when I remembered what I had said and went for it. We both just laughed.
Tony, why were you trying to recall?
Probably just me. But if she only hangs with guys, because it's less drama. MHMH. Also, huge ego. I consider this to be in the same category as people who insist that all their exes were crazy. Someone further up the thread said something about, if you can always smell it then check your own shoes. And I think that applies here as well. If a girl says she doesn't hang around any other girls because they were drama, I translate that to mean no girls have stayed friends with her because she's the drama. I work with a girl who says she hates other women because they are all backstabbing bitches. Surprise, surprise. She talks about everyone behind their back.
Can't find him.
Probably just me.
It's 32 to 39. I wonder why there's so many deaths from our team.
Oh my god, Giannis, I can't even bitch. But it's so fun to say. Being stanky. This needs to be higher.
Help me get this red guy.
I can deal with a lot of the superficial hit listed above, at least in the short term. But if a lady smells like garbage, I'm out. Most of these dudes in this thread are acting as if they would not go home from a bar with a supermodel if she liked the wrong indie rock band. I'm as big a loser as they come, and I'm ashamed to admit I have fornicated with some real dogs. I turned down X twice in my life. One instance the woman told me she had herpes, in the other instance I knew the woman screwed every guy in town and my peen would fall off if I touched her. Trying way too hard to be quirky. This needs to be higher. I don't know about how big, but Jennifer Lawrence and Zooey Deschanel usually comes to mind with this kind of chick. I like Lawrence as an actress and Deschanel as a singer/songwriter. But once they start doing that quirky/normal girl act in interviews, or whatever, it just makes me cringe. What makes it worse is that so many people can't see through it and think it's OMGSOOO / holds up spork. Crunchy hippie chicks who are believe every hippie website about vaccines, chemtrails and homeopathy, but nothing actual doctors or science says. I don't know about hell big. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.
Guys,
It's the final push, boys.
you guys gotta get the. Oh my god, Red's got a bridge for me. You guys gotta get the mid as well, cause I got.
Dude, the Red is freaking going insane.
I know we've had our differences, but we're all in danger. We need to work together.
Medical professionals overdid it. When did you have to tell a patient I've seen it all before to comfort them? But really you had never seen something so bad, or of that nature? In dental school, I had an emergency patient come in, complaining of sore gums. Upon examination, I found a massive calculus bridge. Google it for pictures behind her lower front teeth. She only had about 3 remaining lower teeth, but they were all connected with a whitish brown mineral deposit that was about the size of a golf ball. She had never had her teeth cleaned and she was probably 55 or so. I basically performed an emergency cleaning. She could speak so much better afterwards. Of course I had to play it off like it was normal, but in my years of practice I still haven't seen a case that bad again. Get your teeth cleaned, people. Even if you can't afford every 6 months, once a year, or every other year is a heck of a lot better than never. Had a lady come into the listed as multiple medical problems. This usually means diabetes and the issues stemming from it, or maybe bleeding issues from another disease, or maybe odd blood tests results at a clinic. I hadn't seen the patient yet, but the doctor came to the nurse's station asking who had room 15. I jumped up and followed him into the room. I walked in and saw what I thought was a corpse. Then the patient's eye swiveled over to look at me. She truly looked like one of the people they found in a concentration camp. I could see every bone and her body was twisted in a decorticate position with her jaw locked open. Then the smell hit me. Rotting flesh,
don't go
death,
AFK, please.
and body fluids. I struggled to keep a neutral face and not gag. I tried to place a blood pressure cuff on her arm and her skin just started flaking off in my hands.
Oh,
I
Here comes red, here
gagged.
comes
The
red.
doctor started removing her clothes to examine her.
just
Her
wait,
feet
he's
were
got
black
you.
to the ankles. Her hip bones were poking through her skin and were black. The skin around her ribs was worn away, losing
We don't
muscle
wanna
fibers.
reinforce this,
Her
'cause
calves
then we
were
can just do that one
incredibly
at a time
swollen
first.
and the skin was splitting like ripped pants. I
Just
removed
build
her
up there,
depends,
Grace.
and there was feces coating her entire genital area. Then the doctor went to remove a large bandage on her lower back. Her entire
some diamonds.
sacrum was exposed and the bones were black. The skin around it was a black liquefied mass. It smelled like nothing I've ever smelled. I can't even describe it. The doctor told her family I would clean up her ulcers and wounds in preparation for surgery. Liar. No surgeon would operate on her. I had no idea how to
careful,
clean
Mid.
dead bone tissue and liquefied skin. They don't cover that in nursing school. When I went to clean her sacral area, all the liquefied skin separated and oozed all over the bed. I really struggled to keep my crap together. Afterwards, I needed a moment in the supply closet to cry it out for a second. I had no idea the human body could break down so much without her. I still think about that woman sometimes and what led to her living like that. It still breaks my heart.
Thank
Bro,
you.
I would love some
got the
more
traps
info
off.
on this if
Why are you
anybody
going
else
for
has any
me?
idea what went on
With
here.
those emeralds,
I
well,
honestly
Fred,
can't
come
even
away.
imagine the things you're describing, let alone what could possibly happen in a person's life to lead to such overwhelming deterioration of the body.
Sorry.
I'm a nurse and I work in a pediatrica. A young woman brought her baby in to be seen for vomiting. I asked her to put the baby on the scale. While on the scale I notice a strong odor of bug spray, so I asked about it. Mom, a roach crawled into her mouth, so I sprayed a little Raiden there. She said it matter of factually like it was no big deal. Cut calls to the police, CPS and a one sitter for the child in the mom. When all was said and done, the baby was fine and turned over to her grandmother, so no worries there. I have no idea what happened to the mom. I don't believe she was intending to hurt the child. I think she was just butt-ass ignorant.
I gave it to Thomas.
Okay, never mind. Right, then I'll
They're gonna come back.
I'll give it
Careful.
to Jack, you give it to Brian. Brian, you give it to my brother.
He's got something on his
And then my brother gives
I
Brian.
am.
Wait, someone has to give it to. Okay, alright. Jack, you give it to Brian. No, I'll say, okay. I didn't even give it to
I gave mine to Tony.
Watch out, Max.
I wasn't even able to give it to somebody.
5
Red
years ago I
falling at
spent
you.
6 months working in a
because
small
Red-
rural Zambian hospital in the medical ward as part of a volunteer outreach program. I have done mostly family medicine, some surgery in my early days, but decided to mix life up a bit. The hospital was typical third world, a few basic medications, rudimentary clinical tools, a small lab on site which was usually broken, no resuscitation tools whatsoever. HIV, TB and malaria was rife. It would not be uncommon to encounter a death per day despite our best efforts. On one of my first days there an unconscious person was carried in by a mob of locals. I could smell him before I saw him because he had been in a house fire and his skin was cooked, completely black around his chest, face and over his legs. He was still breathing on his own and maintaining his airway, but we had no doubt he had inhaled a lot of smoke. With no way to intubate or provide oxygen, we merely had to hope that he didn't swell up and close off, and deal with the rest of the burns while he was unconscious. 2 colleagues who worked in the hospital came over urgently. We all kept our cool up sternly and got the nurses to translate to the man's family that we were going to do everything we could to get him better. In reality, all 3 of us knew his chances at survival were in the single-digit percentages. We decided that due to the extent of his burns we were going to have to do an escherectomy, cutting the burned skin to prevent it contracting and stopping him from breathing. Turns out I had the most surgical experience, so despite having never done one before I gave it a go, hoping for the best. We got an IV into a neck vein and got fluids going. The local nurses dressed his burns. We gave him whatever pain relief we had. He was unconscious for a couple of days but eventually came to. Each day we were expecting his kidneys to pack up, but to our surprise, gradually he got better. He was with us for just over 4 months recovering. He came out severely scarred, but he had beaten the odds and survived. It's interesting you even had enough fluids and dressings to keep this guy alive. Well done. I remember working with some nurses from PNG that had come over to us to get some extra experience. Someone like that. Back then, 90s, they wouldn't even try. They just didn't have the resources. I was young and idealistic, and was shocked. This one of those threads you hate yourself for reading but can't stop.
I just leveled it up.
I showed up to a house for a possible overdose. 3 firefighters and a police officer were on top of a man who was prone and naked from the waist down. They immediately told my partner and I to restrain the patient to the gunny because the patient was combative. It turns out he took something thinking it was weed but turned out to be laced with something else, possibly PCP. During his trip he attempted to cut his penis off, but wasn't successful. As fate would have it, I knew the patient personally and tried to comfort him on the way to the hospital. During the ride he became somewhat cognizant and was ashamed of himself. I tried to comfort him as I held his penis in place. I would be lying if I said I had seen a severed penis before. I worked as a mental health tech to get through undergrad. 15F in the adolescent ward claims to have swallowed a staple. Hey, but whatever. As I'm taking her down to X-ray I tell her about the dime I swallowed when I was a kid. It happens. Well, turns out she underestimated the number of staples by around 100. Every printout given by the therapists had been a swallowed staple. She had gotten staples from the other kids. The X-ray of her abdomen looked as if it were a weird staple-wise snow globe. And yet, somehow, she was back to trying to steal psych ward staples a week later. Never did figure out how they removed them all. Never did figure out how they removed them all with a staple remover.
Kill Rosie.
You know what would be fun if you.
Well, it's me the same amount of me because I've never played it.
You know what would be fun if you
killed me like first try.
Kill him.
Yeah, like
if they could switch to Fortnite.
I'm going bottom. I forgot to point those out.
I got middle. I'm doing middle.
Tell me Fred
Not
coming
the
back,
worst,
I'll come back.
but I had a patient once with a stomach bleed and a small bowel obstruction. We had to put in an NG tube that goes in your nose and down to your stomach, to drain decompress his stomach, which was pretty distended and hard. I'm inserting the tube and as soon as it hits this guy's gag reflex he
I leveled up my shield, not...
Nice job, stupid.
Any more
I
wood?
just saw my screen, it said click control.
Hurry.
Something!
I click control W.
There's one behind you, I've never been melee, so I'm kind of scared. Okay, this kid just literally one hit.
Friendly fire or Rosie? Like, I'm trying to click on her.
Projectile vomits and sprays very dark.
Why can't I? It won't let me.
Medical professionals over it. When did you have to tell a patient?
Buy something from the shop for some reason.
I love how no one has top.
I've seen it all before to comfort them, but really you had never.
And I am. I am at the bottom.
Bot over here.
Yeah, right there.
He's gonna yells or.
Y'all can just be in a corner.
You're back. I can hear.
Got him, I got yellow.
Rosie, scoot back. Danger! Minions attacking you!
Never seen something so bad. Well, turns out she underestimated the number of staples by around 100. Every printout given by the therapists had been a swallowed staple. She had gotten staples from the other kids.
Good grammar and spelling are important. But if you want to write essays that inspire...
The X-ray of her abdomen looked as if it were a weird staple-wise snow globe. And yet, somehow, she was back to trying to steal psych ward staples a week later. Never did figure out how they removed them all. Never did figure out how they removed them all with a staple remover. Not the worst, but I had a patient once with a stomach bleed and a small bowel obstruction. We had to put in an NG tube that goes in your nose and down to your stomach, to drain decompress his stomach, which was pretty distended and hard. I'm inserting the tube and as soon as it hits this guy's gag reflex he projectile vomits and sprays very dark, half-digested blood all over himself, the bed, the wall, and the floor. It's basically a scene from The Exorcist. I had to dive out of the way and somehow was unscathed. He couldn't stop for almost 10 minutes as we're trying to get this thing down to where it needs to go. It finally finished placement and it immediately suctions out 3 liters of this black sludge that is old, digested blood. PT was mortified and we had to play it off like, oh no it's fine. It's really common to vomit during the procedure. We'll just go get some towels and clean you up. My co-worker and I left the room and just stared at each other in silent shock. My daughter, who was 3 at the time, had to have a cavity filled. As we were leaving, the dentist told me just to watch my daughter because sometimes kids chew their gums because it's numb and feels weird. So the drive home took 30 minutes and I had been talking to my daughter the entire time to keep her busy. I parked my car in my driveway, opened the passenger seat to get my daughter out, and her entire lower lip on the left side is gone. She had chewed it off down to her chin. She ended up in emergency surgery, but the surgeon kept telling us it would be fine and he sees this stuff all the time. She ended up having multiple surgeries, and when she was finally healed, the surgeon told us that it was the worst injury like that he had ever seen. He wasn't sure how she would heal, but you can hardly tell it happened now. Not a medical professional, but a story about my father. After years of a blood disease, his spleen had to be removed as it had swollen to a size that made breathing difficult. Apparently the surgeon had a photo taken, post-extraction, where he is cradling my dad's 22.0 lb spleen. To top it off, one day into recovery, when doing one of those gentle push on the abdomen type exams on him, my dad's sutures catastrophically failed and he let loose a spray that coated the doctor, his nurse, and a good portion of the ceiling. Luckily for Dad, the hospital staff was on point that day and kept him alive despite his body's best effort. I heard all of this from the doctor while he was removing the line of staples that went from crotch to sternum. Some weeks later, Dad didn't like to share, apparently. Had a patient who needed a lower G study to fix a bowel bleed. To get a study done you need to poop clear mucus. 3 days we bowel prepped with heavy laxatives and enemas. He barely pooped anything. He puts on the call light at 6:45. 15 minutes before my shift ends. He calmly says, I kinda want to try and poop. He said it so casually I figured he was going to toot out another gas bubble and walk back. He stood from the bed, took one step, and the floodgates burst. 3+ days of the most rancid liquid stool I had ever encountered. It just wouldn't stop. He left a river of stool from the bed to the bathroom, coated the walls as he bent to park his butt on the toilet, and continued to dump out 7 people worth of poo. In my 9 years I have never seen that much come out of a person. He was not a large man. He was so embarrassed but I just kept my face as solid as possible, grabbed half the linen closet and 3 packages of Cavi wipes, and sopped it up. Told him this happens all the time. I was caring for my mom at home and she had a lot of bowel problems. This happened to her in bed. She got up and walked down the hall to her bathroom and back. I cleaned it up and told her it wasn't a big deal. She was so embarrassed. I still refer to it as the poop storm of 2008. Looked like someone used a fire hose and painted the travel path. I miss her but not that event.
Oh my god, Brian's gonna die again.
Here comes Red. Oh, again.
Hold up. No, don't.
Again.
Yo. They got team.
What? Crap.
I don't know, you say it.
I feel so hard.
It's fine.
Deal with him. Oh, he's still there. Fireball.
I was trying to tell you to go back.
Lots of stories, many already covered by others. I will share this particular story with my legs crossed. Motorcyclist came in after someone left turned without checking. He had gone over the hood, slid and somehow somersaulted landing on his ass sitting up. He slid across intersection mostly on his ass, getting serious road rash. Luckily he was only a block from hospital and ambulance. They pack him and bring him to the air. We end up cutting off his chaps and jeans and begin the cleanup of gravel and sand embedded in his thighs and ass when all of a sudden, his testicles fall out of his scrotum. He had basically sandpapered a hole in his scrotum while skidding on his
Why does
ass.
everybody
The attending
go for
pauses, grabs
I
the
know, I
saline,
bet it- I probably
irrigates
because I bet it's
scrotum and
barely
notes,
reinforced at all.
fondles them back into place while humming. I handed in some gauze to pack the wound and smiled
Red
at
and
the patient
yellow,
who
come
was
on.
under a local. Then I went on break, went fetal and dry
Diamonds and
heaved
emeralds.
while humming. This seems to
fireballs
be a
again.
common trick for doctors. Till not the worst is always the worst. And if the doctor hums, you're pretty much crap out of luck. Years ago, 2000, I was playing soccer and noticed a little skin irritation underneath my arm. I thought it would go away, but it developed into a weird thing. It was about 2 inches in diameter and grew to be a collection of essentially looked like hundreds of skin tags grew together in a little circle. I went to the doctor who didn't have a clue and he sent me to a specialist. While there it seemed like he didn't know either. This was further evidenced when 4 other doctors came in to take a look and were really interested. They took a ton of photos and told me they hadn't seen this before and couldn't really offer any medication and said they would monitor it. About a week later, the skin tags developed little circles on the top that turned into scabs within a couple days. Then, the thing just kinda dried up and fell off me. It was freaking weird and to this day I have no idea what it was. I was not comforted. I had to have my leg rebuilt after a car accident and was eventually sent to Duke University for my surgery.
Why?
My surgeon was supposed to be like the best orthopedic surgeon in the country. I think he used to work for the Baltimore Ravens. Anyway, all the doctors from my hospital at home were very unsure if I would even have a functioning leg, let alone walk normal again. The first appointment at Duke, that dude told me it was really not a big deal and he would have me fixed almost good as new. I honestly thought he was just trying to be nice and optimistic, but he was very serious. 5 months later I was walking and learning how to run again. He said I was one of the most complicated surgeries he has had to do and a group of surgeons flew in to observe him do it. The dude was either super confident in his skills or a great liar. I will go with super confident since he called in a team to marvel at his work. My aunt started her nursing career in a county hospital, which means you get all the homeless folks. A guy came in with the whole of the back of his leg and butt utterly and very deeply infested with maggots. He just hadn't gotten around to coming in earlier. He said, the depressing thing is that while it was a first for my aunt, it was by no means the last. Apparently it's more common than you think. A huge subset of the population we treat are uninsured, blue collar, low educated people, a lot of smoking and diabetic non-compliance, that sort of thing. Therefore we end up seeing a lot of what happens with diseases if you never treat them and let them run their natural course to end stage. We've had so many diabetic foot and toe amputations I've lost count. However, one lady that sticks out had a huge area of loculated, necrotic tissue on her low back. Usually you'll have a foul smell and purplish black overlying tissue to tip you off. This lady's back had several areas that got so gangrenous and necrotic that there were basically just large pockets down to her subcutaneous fat and muscle. The appearance resembled a sponge with large holes that was filled to capacity with pus. The smell was indescribably atrocious. What made it worse was every time we cleaned out a pocket, we would probe with a finger and it would lead to another freaking pocket of pus and the smell would double up again. Unfortunately, she lost nearly all the skin on her low back down to muscle bone in some places. We slapped a huge wound back on it and she ended up being shipped out to a specialist center. Took forever for the smell to leave my nostrils. You have spotted this beautiful tasty sealed bacon. You can have as much as you want as long as you subscribe in the next 22 seconds. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Or don't.
That's not a dub.
The question is, should I save Rosie?
Farther than this yellow block.
Oh my god! Oh, Brian! Brian!
You're all low.
Got him.
Oh, that should have been my kill too.
I got 11 kills.
Serious? Doctors overdid it. What's that one case that made you go, I'll never see that again? Women managed to mistake fake fingernail glue for her eye drops on her bedstand. She glued her eye shut. And yes, I somehow saw it again. Had a guy bouncing around clinics for probably years if not decades with non-specific back pain. It affects millions of patients, so the typical thing is rest, stretch, ice, maybe over-the-counter meds and go about your life. Well, when he got to us he mentioned he never had any imaging, so we do just a regular x-ray of his back.
Oh, yeah,
Sure
well,
enough, there's a
25
small
though.
caliber bullet lodged near where the rib meets his spinal column. Apparently he had been near a drive-by shooting decades ago and was shot, but thought he just cut his back while jumping over something to get cover and never had it checked out. I never had expected an incident bullet, probably never see one again. When I had an MRI for a back injury, I felt a weird sensation in my right arm and leg. Apparently BBs are just magnetic enough to tug, but not enough to get ripped out. I didn't think they had actually penetrated into me, just left a welt.
Oh, red's coming out other side.
Inflated
Red's
like a
coming
balloon
the
from the
other side
hand. She worked at
I
a
see one of
machine
them.
that made plastic bottles. A hollow spike with a blob of melted plastic is jabbed into a mold and it injects air until it reached a preset cut-off pressure before the mold opened. While cleaning the machine cycled and caught her hand. The spike kept injecting air, but never hit the cut-off pressure, so it kept injecting. Fortunately, it didn't hit a vessel. That would kill her. Instead, the air dissected in the fascial planes and subcutaneous tissue and blew her up. Free air in abdomen. Both lungs partially collapsed. Looked like a volleyball. We reinflated her lungs with chest tubes. Gave her antibiotics, but she was fine otherwise. The rest of the air absorbed over a few days. Saw her in the office and she was a tiny thing. Unlike the huge obese person I had suspected of discharge from the hospital. A good friend is doing residency at a pediatrician's office that had a 6-month-old girl brought in because she had started growing public hair. Not fuzz, straight up pubes. A nurse took note of the fact that the father was in his 60s and had enough insight to ask if he was taking testosterone treatments. Turned out that during skin-to-skin time he would lay his daughter on his chest, in the same spot he had applied his testosterone gel earlier in the day. My ex-husband was on full testosterone replacement after the birth of one of our kids. The baby and I both were exposed to the testosterone gel. I had to take a few meds, including one called Rayfemin, which is a terrible name. When I was on a Ginny-onc rotation, I saw a patient who needed a hysterectomy. A few days post-op she had a mild fever and abdominal pain. Ultrasound showed a collection had built up where her uterus used to be, so she was scooted back to theater to try and drain it. So the surgeons are carefully trying to reopen the wound, and not much is coming out for a while. Suddenly a little waterfall of pus starts gushing out of her vagina. There were liters of pus that had collected in this woman's abdomen and it was now spilling onto the floor of the theater. It looked like peri-peri sauce and smelled like death. Whenever someone says, emergency theater in these comments, I just picture everyone urgently running to put on a musical. Had a 30s male take a small caliber bullet to the lower back, coming completely paralyzed. Quadriplegia. It didn't make sense given location of wound meant only legs should be paralyzed. Paraplegia. On imagining, the bullet entered the spinal canal through a small opening, deflected and traveled up to the cervical spine, causing complete paralysis. All from some ass that shot up a BBQ. Locked in syndrome. Paralyzed. Unresponsive. Could only move eyes. Vitals and scans all normal. Shipped off to a big hospital with a neuro IQ. Haven't gotten a follow-up on her. Only 35 years old.
12 kills.
This lady came in and literally half of her face had been basically eaten up by basal cell carcinoma. Eye and everything were just gone. It was oozing blood. It had been this way for years, according to her. And the kicker, that's not even the problem she came into the hospital for. She had come in for an umbilical hernia as big as a basketball that had been there for months. And she started vomiting over the past week, so she finally went to the ED. I used to be in a registrar and had a lady come in because her heart monitor was going off. The thing is, she was covered in blood and had some small lacerations on her head and scalp. She wouldn't tell anyone why she was covered in blood, just insisted she needed her heart checked out. It was the weirdest thing. 70-something-year-old lady at normal health, walking, Reading, enjoying life with husband, a month or so prior to arriving at the university hospital where I was a resident. In that month she had rapidly went blind. Vision was first symptoms. Optometrist said everything was good, and no longer spoke nor ate. Husband distraught, obviously. Diagnosis of sporadic Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, the human version of mad cow disease or scrapie. Prion disease is terrifying me. I had a family of 3 that came in with progressive proximal muscle weakness and diplopia. Found out they tried home canning and all got botulism. It isn't every day you get to tell someone I called the CDC and they're flying in the antitoxin. Intubated them in the ED. They stayed in the ICU for about a month, then
That
went
was
to
so
an
much fun.
TAC.
Can you do that again?
I think the one of the most interesting things I ever saw in the emergency department was the opposite of an episode of Untold Stories of the year that I literally saw a few days earlier. The patient in the episode is labeled as being acutely psychotic as she said something was crawling in her head. The doctor listens to her story and indeed believes his patient to be acutely psychotic. It was the physical exam that revealed that the bot file laid eggs on her scalp and they had to remove multiple insects from her scalp by using Vaseline to suffocate the bugs enough to extract them. My patient unfortunately had the opposite. She was a highly respected member of the community. She went on a holiday and got worms in her vagina. The gynecologist confirmed it for her under a microscope. Once the diagnosis is made, you are easily treated. She was given the requisite dosing of I think mebendazole. This is a one-time dose and sometimes you need a second to cure yourself 2 weeks later. Unfortunately, what the patient presented with was an acute psychotic break. She stated she had worms coming out of her skin. The only way to get them was to chew walnuts and rub the chewed walnut paste against her skin to extract the worms. She rhythmically rocked in the bed while her husband sat by. She couldn't stop rubbing walnuts and saying, "See, there's a worm." This went on for hours while we ran lab work. CT scan of her head. Drug screen. Even sent walnuts worms for pathology. No positive results. Eventually I had to admit the patient. The husband looked so defeated. I didn't feel comfortable with him having the strength to care for her. Don't know if I'll see that scene again. I had a patient who actually weighed 1,068 pounds. His BMI was higher than his nurse's weight. He was in his 30s. He came in with presumed septic shock and to get a 30cc kg bolus would have been about 16 liters. He ended up with negative blood cultures and we never found out why his blood pressure got so low. He couldn't fit in any CT scanner. One thought was he got so large his weight collapsed his large veins. But we really have no idea. I'm a medical student, but I have seen 2 cases that I don't think I'll see again. First was a woman with freeze syndrome. Basically, every time she chewed, a small area on her cheek, right in front of her ear, would start sweating a lot and get red. The other one was a middle-aged man who got stabbed by his wife. It was actually the second time that he had come to the for being stabbed by his wife, and apparently his son had stabbed him once before too. He defended his wife by saying, "I made her mad," and refused to take legal action against her. You'll likely see him again.
That was so fun.
About 7 months ago, a young dude came into the emergency room with severe chest pain and shortness of breath. He was kind of skinny and lanky, so after thorough questioning and clinical examination, including an ECG, we sent him to get a chest x-ray to rule out a pneumothorax, which is when air gets trapped between the pleura and lung tissue.
Okay,
Anyways,
fine, you both get the credit, you little
after looking at the
babies.
chest x-ray, we didn't see a pneumothorax, but we did see slivers of
okay,
air
little
trapped in the
girl,
medial
stop fighting over the
sternum, the
Starbucks
part
latte.
between the lungs. I asked him if he had vomited before the chest pains
fighting over the
started and lo and
lattes.
behold he did. Dude got sent to the university
Oh my
hospital
gosh,
in an ambulance ASAP with the suspected diagnosis being pneumomediastinum DD, differential diagnosis, Bierhaave syndrome. When one vomits so hard the esophagus ruptures. The university hospital confirmed the diagnosis to be Bierhaave syndrome and the patient underwent emergency surgery. Actually still have his x-ray on a CD because I thought it was such an interesting case. I saw someone who stabbed herself in the neck to try and kill herself. She had a good crack at it and the knife went in from the base of her neck, through her trachea, past her aorta and into her pericardium. It took a few attempts to intubate her because the anatomy was so messed up. One attempt intubated her pericardial sac.
Jackie, how about
Anesthetist here was once on call and had emergency trauma call. We usually get a few of these daily and are normally people who have fell from height or minor car collision. I came down to the resus department and was told it was an 18-year-old stabbing to the chest who had lost output. My first time dealing with this type of scenario, the adrenaline got going. I called for immediate help from the consultant on call. Multiple surgical and ED personnel arrived to be on standby. I work in a district general hospital, so we don't have facilities for cardiothoracic surgery. My only hope was to cut open his chest. thoracotomy and hope there was something we could treat. That is pneumothorax, hemothorax. The young man arrived by ambulance with CPR in progress. There was blood everywhere, clothes soaked. He was blue and pale, vomit in the mouth. I took over the airway and intubated him. Airway secured while the ED doctor and surgeon started to quickly cut open his thorax and ED. Within 30 seconds of arrival, I cut away his entire ribcage, lifting it up like a flap. I could literally see his entire heart and lungs. Huge amounts of clotted blood fell out of his chest. His heart was palpated, but he had lost enough blood that further CPR was futile. Time of death: 3 minutes after arrival. Police took over for evidence. We all washed our hands of the blood, went back to work. I could not sleep that night or for a few days after. Nurse here. Got a patient from the ED. While she was down there, the nurse noted that her shirt was wet. She was assisting the patient into a gown, and when she removed the shirt there was an open stage IV breast tumor there. The wound's about the circumference of an apple or orange. The doctor asked her, "This doesn't just happen overnight. How long has this been going on?" The patient had no idea. This woman was definitely weird but didn't appear to have any psychiatric diagnosis. She lived with 2 brothers who obviously didn't have any reason to be looking there. She's probably dead now. I mean, I am as single as frick and have nobody looking at my tea, but I sure as heck would notice an open wound before it got that big. My dad used to work in the IQ about 40 years ago. A farmer came in who had all his skin ripped off by one of those high-speed belts. Surprisingly, he wasn't really concerned about that. The first thing he said to my dad was, my dong, is it still there? I just got married and we plan on having kids. By some miracle, the only place where his skin wasn't ripped off was around his genitals. When I was a med student, there was this lady who was admitted with shortness of breath and she was not conscious due to COPD and pneumonia. She looked old but not that much. So when she woke up, resident was taking the history and looked surprised. He said, "Are you really 106? She said, "Yes, but it might be wrong 2 years give or take." And resident asked if the old man was still around. She said he passed away 1.5 years ago. When we asked how did he pass away, she answered, he was 115 when he died. His senses were getting weaker and he was not feeling well, so he was moving very slow. So did he have a heart attack or something? Nah, he didn't hear the bus when he was crossing the street and died from traffic accident. She had really old daughters taking care of her, but they weren't very old looking either. Also, she was upset because we didn't let her die. Hopefully this is something I'm never see. I was swapping crazy IQ stories with a preceptor, and he had me beat by a mile with a story of a young, very obese woman who came in for sepsis. The source was a bunch of wood splinters embedded in the skin under her panis, but no one could figure out how the splinters got there. Eventually the story came out. The woman needed help whenever she tried to have penetrative sex with her husband, which they only did to try and conceive. She lay down on the kitchen table. Her mom would hold up one leg, her mill the other leg, so she was essentially in lithotomy, and her dad would shove a board under her panis to hold it up to allow her husband access. Apparently they called it the breeding board and decided to sand it down before using it next time. I thought my preceptor was joking me, but as the story progressed my classmates started freaking out, because she had a similar story from her days in L&D. Sunboard, with a completely different family helping their obese still conceive. At a rural ED once and saw a lady that tried to plug her tractor's hydraulic fluid line, which had a leak, with her thumb, then activated it. Probably thousands of C worth of pressured fluid ripped through her thumb and hand. Pretty mangled. I'll probably see wounds like that, but unliked from someone thinking they can plug a hole like that with their thumb. My first patient experience in medical school was a doozy. Patient came in with chest pain, multiple previous MIs, looking like crap. He codes in front of us and we immediately start CPR. Being the med student, I was doing compressions. Halfway through the first round the guy starts groaning and grabbing at my arm. I assume that means his heart started up again, so I stop for a second and the guy goes totally limp. No palpable pulse. Restart compressions. Same thing happens again. This time they tell me not to stop. Apparently there was little enough downtime and the compressions were working well enough to perfuse his brain to the point of actually waking.
My lipstick. Yes! I've had it. I want to get rid of it. You've had it?
Yeah, it's so
waking up a bit. Ultimately we sedated the guy, but for the first few minutes we had to hold his arms down so he wouldn't grab me. He was still groaning during that time though. Called the code about 30 minutes in. What's scary to me is I'd always have assumed that sort of response would mean they'd live, the heart would restart. You have been visited by the road savvy chihuahua. You will have good fortune behind the wheel and an accident free life, but only if you comment drive safe, papa.
You have a business. And with YouTube, you can open your door to half the world's internet users, while only
r/ask Reddit. Doctors of Reddit. Have you ever seen someone outside of work and thought, wow, that person needs to go to the hospital now? What were the symptoms that made you think this? My father was degrading steadily for a few years. Medications would help for a bit, then stop. One specialist after another didn't help. Go out for coffee after yet another appointment. A doctor asks if he's interested in joining his Parkinson's study. He doesn't have that. He just hasn't been diagnosed. I can tell by his walk. 6 months later. Dad is a grumpy old man again. I heard this is how Billy Connolly was eventually diagnosed. He is walking through a hotel lobby when a doctor sees him and goes to talk to him and asks that he go get checked for Parkinson's because of his gait. He went and was diagnosed. The girl I was dating worked at a daycare. She had a regular parent-teacher conference one night and told me she was dreading having to tell one family that their 8-month-old was developmentally far behind compared to the other kids. He wasn't crawling yet and was barely able to pick up his head when lying on his back. She tells me that he's still a cute kid, but has a really big head. All these are the typical signs of hydrocephalus, a condition where fluid gets trapped inside the brain. I asked her to have the parents see a neurosurgeon. The kid ended up having surgery to have a shunt placed and has now developmentally almost caught up to his peers. At least they listened. I worked with kids for years at high-end daycares and the parents were so sure that their baby was perfect. I had a kid with ducking RSV for 3 weeks before they took him to the doctor. He almost died. Thanks for listening. Edit. Sorry I didn't clarify on RSV. It is a respiratory infection that can be fatal in babies. I should have typed it out. My bad. And he didn't have it the full 3 weeks, but got worse all while we were doing everything we legally could to get them to take him to the doctor, but there is only so much one can do. My so used to work at places like that. She said the parents were the worst part of her job. Obligatory I'm a doctor, wow one exists. I was walking on the street and knocked into this lady. She said sorry really close to my face. Her breath smelled really sweet. Fruity. This is characteristic of DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. I stopped her and asked if she was diabetic. She said she wasn't sure. I asked her if I could count her ESPs. She was technically hyperventilating. She had urinated 6x/hour for the last 3 hours. And she said she felt kinda hitty. I decided that ultimately she fulfilled enough of the criteria to be a candidate for DKA. And other possibilities were equally as lethal. There was an ambulance passing. I happened to have had my white coat on me since I was just off shift. So I waved it like a ducking flag. And they pulled over and brought her to the hospital. That said, unless I see someone actively dying, like in this scenario, I won't say anything. Almost every physician will undergo 5-10 experiences where they tried to help someone on the street or in a store. And they said go away. It's none of your business. So we decide to not speak up. Even if they are dying sometimes. I only speak up if I'm pretty sure whatever they have is lethal. I've had colleagues say people they met or friends of their spouses have had diseases they tried to warn them about, but they ignored us. And then they wind up having expensive but treatable or inexpensive but untreatable diseases. Generally, if a doctor is taking his/her time to tell you that we think you have something with little to not testing, it is probably worth taking our advice in most situations, no matter how much of an asshole you may think we are in that moment. Edit. Okay. So this freaking blew up. The things that can happen in 2 hours haha. Edit 2. Decided to check my karma. Goddamn people. Edit 3. To the people who personally messaged me. I appreciate that you care about your health. But see a doctor. I honestly don't have time to answer 150 plus messages about your symptomology with no ability to perform exams or tests. I do not feel comfortable potentially risking your life. Please see your personal physician if you are concerned. The cost of seeing your GP is far under the potential for going to the and being charged 3-4x that. If I'm dying and you see me, please let me know. Edit, and even not. Just say I'm sorry. I'm a doctor. And I noticed something about the way you. Did you? Because then it's just something interesting and cool about me that I can explain away or get checked out. I see that you've been stabbed in the butt. I think you might be died soon. KTHNX bye. Yes. I'm a doc, and a few months ago my wife and I were at a restaurant and an older gentleman passed out. Fell down and hit his head on the counter. He was unconscious for probably 30 seconds. I went over and checked him out. He came to, was a little confused, and blamed it on his blood sugar. Actually passing out from a blood sugar issue then bouncing right back and being awake without eating/drinking would be pretty rare. I asked medical history type questions and found out he's on Coumadin, as evidenced by multiple bruises on his arms and head. He had a nice big cherry on his head and a huge bruise over his temple, and told me that he passes out all the time, so this wasn't a big deal. One with multiple syncopial, passing out episodes at his age, he likely has an arrhythmia which could be dangerous and needs to be checked out. 2. He just suffered a head injury and is on blood thinners and could have a brain bleed. 3. He had a head lag that probably could have used closing. I highly advised he go get checked out at the hospital, but he of course refused because, again, this happens all the time. Edit, came to, not came to. Sorry guys, haha. It amazes me how the observation is I randomly pass out all the time, and they conclude this isn't a problem. People don't make connections between things all the time. Passing out is only a problem if you're a sick person. I'm not a sick person, so it's not a problem. My cousin is a nurse and I wanted a second opinion on my tit. After seeing my doctor the previous day, I sent a photo of my tit and my cousin replied hospital. Now, I had mastitis turn abscess from breastfeeding. It was the worst case anyone at my hospital had seen. Heck, they had doctors, nurses and students all coming in to see my tit. By the time I had surgery, this infection was protruding and filled with blood and pus. It went from red and swollen to pus and blood within 6 hours. It was huge. After surgery they stuffed my boob with 5 feet of gauze. It was removed by one nurse who had zero clue I had no painkillers in my system at the moment. I bawled and screamed in the shower as she ripped it all out. She apologized after realizing I felt every bit of that gauze coming out. Worst experience of my life hands down. I had to have a nurse come daily and change my packing and bandages for 6 weeks because the gaping hole almost made me pass out after the gauze removal. In a hoe. Thank God my cousin told me to go. This made me cringe so hard. Glad you're okay now and so sorry you had to go through that. How the duck did your doctor not notice something that serious? Ugh. Doctor obviously thought I wasn't listening to his instructions of hot and cold compresses and pumping frequently. Thing was, I was at the point I was screaming into the mattress while pumping. I told him it was painful and he said that's normal. Completely ignored my concerns. I haven't gone back to him since.
They slow down, you slow down.
Yeah, I'm really liking this.
I'm not a doc, just an EMT. A few years ago I was leaving a movie. I stopped to use the bathroom, and as I stood at the urinal, I was overcome by the smell of a GI bleed. There were 3 or 4 people using the stalls, and there were a total of maybe 12 people in the bathroom. I didn't want to make things weird, so after some hemming and hawing I decided my best course of action was to awkwardly yell only if I was bleeding from the just to vetract and shoulder to theresap. As I ran out of the bathroom. Edit, I woke up to an inbox full of extremely kind words from a lot of people. It really made my day to hear all of the encouragement. Today happens to be the first day of going back to school, and I'm off to an auspicious start. Just an EMT. Yeah. You people work really ducking hard, and usually know your hit. You don't get paid enough. You see disgusting hit. Deal with crazy people on the daily. And when you drop folks off to my unit, you're nice. You may not have meant anything by it, but don't ever say I'm just an EMT. Or shucks. You're gonna make me blush. Saw a man sweating profusely. Eyes popping out in the middle of winter with a light sweater on. Told him to see his GP today, to get a thyroid blood test today, and get referred to an endocrinologist for Graves' disease. Called me crazy and to mind my own business. Ended up seeing him in clinic next week during my endocrinology rotation. Hi doc, sorry I called you crazy. This happened to me. I was 14. At dinner in the middle of winter, a nurse stopped me as I reached across the table to pick up my glass and told my parents to have me screened for Graves. I guess my hands were trembling and my eyes were a bit bugged. Of course not noticeably enough for anyone close to me to notice, though I'd been having a slew of weird symptoms for a while. A week later I was diagnosed with Graves. My thyroid hormone levels were literally off the charts. Same thing happened to me. I was finally diagnosed at 16. But I had been experiencing a wide variety of symptoms for a while. I honestly, though being sweaty, shaky, irritable and insatiably hungry all the time was normal. Obligatory, not a doctor, but my whole family are doctors, seriously. Both my siblings, my mother and my father are doctors. I live abroad, but went home to visit my family over the Christmas holiday and unfortunately had to leave my husband back in the UK. I got off the plane, and I felt pretty crappy, but I just chalked it up to motion sickness from the long airplane ride. However, over the next few days I just got worse and worse. I felt really nauseous and exhausted, and I had terrible pain in my stomach. This went on for about a week. My mum was the first one who called it. Told me I was definitely pregnant. I completely denied it. I had an IUD and I hadn't missed a period. So in my mind there was no way I could be pregnant. When my mum found out I had an IUD, she forced me to go to emergency immediately. Turned out to be an ectopic pregnancy. Luckily they caught it very early. So no damage to my fallopian tubes or my reproductive future. But yeah, she definitely saved me. If I had waited to go to the doctors after I had returned home, it would have been way too late. So very thankful for my genius mum. I won't be able to see her over the holidays this year. Now I really miss her. I have an IUD and an ectopic pregnancy is my worst nightmare. You have some stubborn oocytes there. For all other girls out there, if you are showing symptoms of pregnancy and you have an IUD, go to the doctor or you could die. Edit. Been reading too much about parasites. It's not oocysts but oocytes. My mother had an ectopic pregnancy before having my brother and me. She wasn't on any BC. Trying for kids with my dad. Just got hella unlucky. Fertilized egg got caught in the fallopian tube and just never kept going. She had told her friend that she had a really heavy period that month. She was disappointed she wasn't pregnant, but she was used to having incredibly uncomfortable and long, heavy periods when not on BC. Her friend asked how long this one was going on, and my mom admitted more than a week and a half. This woman my mom was talking to happened to be married to an ectopic pregnancy expert in the city. Next thing my mom knows, she's calling my dad saying, "I'm being sent to next city over for emergency surgery." The fallopian tube had burst, and she was bleeding out into her lower back. If she hadn't gotten medical attention, she would have died of internal bleeding in the next 2 days. So girls, if you are trying and you start bleeding a duck ton more than usual and have incredible lower back pain, doctor up. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together. r/ask Reddit. What's the biggest PR disaster you've ever seen? The Mountain Dew promotion that let people on the internet come up with names for the new flavor and then allowed voting for the favorite. If I remember correctly, the top submissions were Squirting Granny and Hitler did nothing wrong. Don't trust people on the internet. It was actually Gushin' Granny. Is it bad that I knew this? Nestia had a promotion 5 years back where in every 12 pack they had a coupon for a free 12 pack. As soon as the kids in my town caught wind of it, they brought as many cars as possible and just bought 6 cases. Dumped them in their car. Took the coupons. Got 6 more cases. And so on. Nestia is my favorite drink of all time, so as soon as I heard about it, maybe 4 hours in, I checked every major store and they were clean out. I even totally found a bunch of Diet Nesties in a random shoppers and still made a decent haul. People got creative with the literal hundreds of cans of Nestia. I built a throne. Still can't believe this, it acutely happens. TL. Dr. Infinite Nestia. Am I missing something here? Like, did the free 12 pack then have another coupon for even another 12 pack? Yes. Your only cost was the first 12 pack that you bought. The Fine Brothers' reaction to the backlash for React World. The reaction wasn't what they expected. The original React World video was bad when taking their reputation into consideration. But the way they reacted to the backlash was way worse. Their apology was the least genuine apology ever. Their apology was basically saying this is good for you, but you're too stupid to realize it. Are bad. Apple automatically putting U2's new album on everyone's phones. Hey, U2 put an album on my phone. How do I get an album off my phone? 2 years ago I got a promotion. New job title. New office. How do I make a great first impression? Teach every iPhone user in the office how to remove the goddamn U2 album from their phone. And now I'm in line for another promotion. I would like to personally thank Bono and Steve Jobs for my success. The unveiling of Xbox One wasn't exactly a high point in Microsoft's PR history. Neither were the demos that were showcasing Xbox One's graphical prowess being played on PCs with GTX 780 Ti graphics cards, the most powerful at the time. Brock Turner's family. Brock Turner's case is bad from the start. He's runk. Apes an even more unk woman in a back alley. Is caught red-handed. And still manages to get off with a comparatively light sentence. There's a local backlash against the judge, based on the sentence. If I was the PR guy there, I start talking he was runk. He's still learning to deal with alcohol. He screwed up, but promises to do better in life. Get him to write a letter of apology, etc. Anything to get the attention off the ape in the sentence, and on something else, ideally a program to prevent young men from making the same mistakes he did. Basically, push the young, runk, victim of society, let's fix society angle. Instead, his family comes out with letters with lines like 6 months for 5 minutes of action, and how scarred he is from the ordeal. In the middle of a national news cycle that is focusing on the problem of ape on campuses nationwide. At that point, it's way too easy for everyone to compare what he's going through to what the average ape survivor deals with, and it's entirely possible that he's going to have a hard time in life even after he's out. Because of what his name means now. A letter that was read to the court had a profound effect on me. The city of Los Angeles had a few dozen women read the letter at city council a few weeks back. Jesus, hearing it out loud is emotional as duck. I thought of another one, the launch of SimCity, the recent remake. So they decided on some horrible combination of DRM and online only play. Cut to launch day, when the servers were jam-packed and everyone was getting lol you can't join the server messages. But couldn't even play the game as a sandbox, because it had to be online only at the time. If they could even get on to get past the DRM. EA eventually got it under control. But only after a lot of people abandoned the game. And eventually they had to put in a sandbox mode, so people could play the damn game without being tethered all the time. And again. It's SimCity. Not World of Warcraft. Their dreams of some MMORPG style version of the game were wildly afar from what most people, that I know of, wanted from the game. And after launch someone sniffed his game traffic, and found out it wasn't even communicating with the servers, it didn't need to be online in the first place. It was just cheap DRM as everyone suspected. This was after EA had come across saying the online part was a core part of the game and couldn't be removed. Cue the next day or two where someone removed it themselves. Registered ex-offenders doing Twitter Q&As. The R. Kelly one gave us this chestnut. On a scale of Blue Ivy to Willow Smith, what's the oldest female you would date? On a scale of 1 to 10. How old is your girlfriend? His current girlfriend is 19. Apparently he has a strict 30-year age difference policy. I went to a university where the mascot was a pronghorn deer. We got a new gym and sports complex, so to open it, they made a mascot costume man. To make it seem like the largely disinterested student body was involved, put the naming of the mascot to a vote. Of course Horny won in a very public, automated online voting process. The body came out a few days later and announced the name was Prongers. This was announced at the first game in a new venue and came out to loud boos. Edit. Despite what they told us at orientation, the pronghorn is not an antelope. Similarly, my university had a vote to determine the new school mascot. Admiral Akbar won. The mascot ended up being the black bear. Edit. Yes. It's Ole Miss. By damn. Reminds me of Scottsdale Community College. Except when the Fighting Artichokes won, they actually went with it. Number Susn album putty. Still mentally scarred from that image. Therapist find a point net used to be a real thing. For finding therapists, not rapists. Last year, Nestle tried to make a number Ask Nestle hashtag happen on Twitter in Germany. The questions they received included, why are you letting children starve? Why do you support child labor? And why do you hate the rainforest? Guess that didn't turn out too well for them. Any company or organization that tries the ask name is just ducking begging for trouble. Why they keep trying it thinking it will work for them is beyond reasoning. Ask Reddit. A Philadelphia pretzel shop opened up in our neighborhood and thought it would be funny to hand out marketing/advertisement papers that looked like Philly parking tickets on one side. So the neighborhood woke up to find their cars littered with tickets and everyone had a meltdown of rage. People stormed over to their car ripping the ticket out of their windshield, only to find it was a joke. The other side was an advert to the new pretzel shop. Man. Did that shop get it? Calls, threats, screams, you name it. I don't know how they stayed in business, but it was a rocky start. And for anyone not familiar with the region, the area this happened in has overly crowded street parking, so people are already super stressed out about parking cars, too limited parking places, etc. Targeting the parking situation was a bad move. Any other joke would have been fun. This nearly incited murders. The gang opens a pretzel shop. It's not a peen flyer. It's a bishop. The time the Dallas Cowboys lost their website URL because of internal miscommunication and cowboys.com is now a gay dating website. Domain is for sale now. I guess the website was not as successful as they'd hoped. The reign of former United CEO Jeff Smisek. 1. He was there for the merger of United and Continental, but never merged the contracts for the pilots/flight attendants, leaving the entire staff disliking the guy. He is also blamed with taking people's pensions and making a bunch of people relocate to Chicago and then laying them off. 2. On top of that, at the beginning of every flight he would have a video of himself talking about how great UA is. The comments from the flight attendants are hilarious. 3. Started cheapening the food in international first/business. My favorite is their old champagne. Chateau de Jeff. 4. Jeff lied to Cleveland and closed their hub anyways. This was a big reason United merger was approved. 5. One of Jeff's underlings was caught trashing elite members, which caused a lot of very high frequency flyers to leave. 6. Jeff eventually got fired for bribing some guy in Jersey. He got fired and paid like 10,000,000. It's good to be Jeff. 6. Jeff eventually got fired for bribing some guy in Jersey. He got fired and paid like 10,000,000. It's good to be Jeff. The Port Authority found him to corrupt. The Methodic King Port Authority. When you can out-corrupt NJ government, you're doing it right. That's like Russia level. The Clumpers ice cream near my house had flowers made 1 year and the person who made the flowers left the L out, and I goose nobody noticed until it was too late. There were flowers that said Clumpers ice cream all over the place. TBH. Clumpers is a pretty terrible name to begin with. Yeah, I never really got it, but the ice cream is dank, man. Cincinnati Zoo is losing their haram defense pretty terribly right now. Might be the first time a zoo has ever had to release a statement that basically says please stop sending us memes, which seems like a historical moment to me somehow. Back in the 1990s, Hoover, then the biggest vacuum cleaner company in the UK and many other markets, made the biggest PR misstep I've ever seen. The business need was they had a load of old stock of vacuums and washing machines that needed shifting, so rather than aggressively cut prices which could undermine the amount of money people would be willing to pay for such a product in the future, they went for a classic solution, a sales promotion. That was the right call. But what happened next? What a complete clusterf, CK. The sales promotion was that if you spent more than PS 100 on a Hoover product, you would receive 2 free return airline tickets to any destination in Europe. A very generous deal, but given it would free up costly warehouse space and they could buy cheap airline tickets in bulk. Hoover were confident that they could run the promotion and still make money. Wrong. The problem Hoover ran into is that huge numbers of people went out and bought a Hoover product just because they wanted the airline tickets. People were buying new vacuums and washing machines because they calculated that it was cheaper than simply buying their holiday flights. The company quickly found itself totally overwhelmed by the demand both for tickets and products. And this also ruined their maths. They were now making a huge loss on every product sold. However, for a time, they didn't realize this. They instead saw a huge boom in sales and revenue. Without realizing every sale came with a commitment to invest in expensive airline tickets. As a result, the business decided to expand the promotion to include new long-distance destinations like the USA. This double-down decision is perhaps the worst double-down decision in the history of marketing in the UK. By the time they realized what was actually happening, it was too late. The promotion has no real terms and conditions, and so Hoover were unable to protect themselves as long as the in-store promo messages remained. People expected to get the deal. The huge run on products, and thus airline tickets, totally swamped the company in administrative pain and financial disaster. In the end, the company were taken to court many times for broken promises and unfulfilled claims. The courts ruled against them in every case, as the promotion clearly guaranteed tickets with purchase. It was not a competition. The final result was an estimated loss of PS 50 million. And the firing of a number of board directors. No surprises that the CMO was among them. The ongoing damage to the company and the brand was so big. They were sold just a few years later at a cut down price to an Italian company, and the Hoover brand in Europe has never been the same since. One thing they figured was that most people would forget to claim their free flights to Europe as the months go by. That logic can work with freebies of lesser cost, but not for holiday flights. Their accompanying free flights to the US promotion helped to remind anyone who had forgotten to claim their flights. Martha Coakley running against Scott Brown for Ted Kennedy's old Senate seat. After being criticized for not running an enthusiastic enough campaign as Brown continued to close the gap between them, she responded, "What do they want me outside Fenway Park shaking hands in the cold?" A shot at Brown, who was doing that very thing a few days before. She proceeded to lose the election, and Massachusetts had its first Republican senator since 1979. She also lost to Charlie Baker in the 2014 governor's race. I have no ducking idea why or how she keeps getting nominated. She couldn't get elected dog catcher in the Commonwealth. Some years back, there was an incident where a Greyhound passenger went crazy and beheaded another passenger. Greyhound had just rolled out an ad campaign titled Road Rage. You've never heard of bus rage? It was very quietly pulled. Reminds me of when Toyota had to recall a hitload of cars because their brakes were failing. Their campaign at the time. Toyota, moving forward. Cigarette companies trying to spin the benefits of smoking. Remember when they tried to convince us that smaller infant weights were a preferred thing? Or that smoking was healthy? Every time they turned their PR engine on, stupidity and arrogance poured out. Sarah Palin, or rather her selection as a VP candidate for McCain. I remember hearing the announcement and a part of my younger mind, I was 21ish, was okay. They're aiming for demographics, and then she opened her mouth. Then the Katie Couric interview occurred where she couldn't name a thing she'd read. Then Tina Fey started playing her on SNL. Later was told that my grandfather, who is Republican to the bone, saw her introduction, turned to an aunt, and said they just lost. Katie Couric interview occurred where she couldn't name a thing she'd read. She clearly said she read them all. All of the things. Probably Mars ice cream. A couple of decades ago, in the UK, they planned an entire month's summer campaign on Capital Radio. Starting in June, when the trigger temperature reached 21 degrees C. All these promotions, competitions, giveaways etc would kick off. So the Capital DJs were announcing the imminent start of the Great Ice Cream event, and it was cold and rainy for week after week after week. In fact, the mercury stayed stubbornly below 21 degrees for the entire time the campaign was supposed to run. And it never kicked off at all. Moral: don't rely on the British weather as a linchpin of anything. Mars ice cream bars, however, 10/10ths masterpiece. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.